Good day, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Australian Reptile Q&A. A little bit of an impromptu show today. I don't know what's... Oh, there's Darren. Yeah, so Darren's moving, but on my screen, it's not moving at all. Let me just wait and see. I just wanted to refresh. I just quickly want to refresh the screen, guys. So just bear with me. There we go. And now we've been swapped. Now we've swapped around. Hang on. There we go. Are you guys? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
All good. All good.
There we go. Never a dull moment around here, is there? Let me just swap because I was used to having everybody in a certain position, so I just want to swap everybody to where they were, so I remember where they are. Hello, Darren.
Hey, how are you?
Hello, Brent.
Afternoon, all.
And hello, Colin.
G'day, mate. How you going?
I'm good. I'm just monitoring that everything's running okay. We normally have this little glitchy session right at the start, but we'll eventually. And of course they've changed the whole setup here. Did they change? Does your interface look different again today, or is it the same as last time?
Same, I think.
Oh, it must just be the guy that runs the show that has a different layout here on the screen. It's very stressful when every time you open up a piece of software that when it's the layout changes. You know, I'm a type of guy that likes to have the same stuff, like have a familiarity around the stuff that I use. So, what's been happening in New South Wales, Darren? Give us an update on the COVID situation down there.
Not good. It's COVID central at the moment. 77 new cases today. Yeah, it's not good. So stay at home, don't go out. Lockdown. They're forecasting at least 100 cases tomorrow. So
that's great.
So yeah, more lockdowns to come.
I thought it was going down from the. We're not going to spend the whole afternoon talking about COVID, but it's good to just know what's going on. I thought last week it looked like it was slightly going down, and so there's been a peak in the last week. I assume then.
Yeah, it's people not doing what they're supposed to do, staying home. You know, report this morning and everything. The police are saying about socialising and not doing something. Like one was I was saying before was I think it was like 15 or 20 blokes playing cards in a unit.
Yeah.
There was another bunch of kids playing PlayStation in someone's garage at home. So there was another one. There was all sorts of ones. So, you know, just stay at home, don't go out. Unless, you know, send one person to the shops, you don't all have to go. It's like
tell me, Brent, I know you're a big fan of the lockdowns. I know you like to just stay cooped up at home and do nothing. Is that what's the situation where you are? You're an essential service, you know?
Yeah, for work-wise, still the same. Nothing changes. For really, lockdowns don't change my life much at all. So everyone else is crying and whinging about it. But I mean, it's probably not all people doing the wrong thing. I'm sure there's heaps doing the wrong thing. Absolutely, I see it every day at work. But people just go to the shop. They have to get food. If they got COVID, they don't know for a certain time. Haven't been tested. It's something that's going to be hard to control, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's. I'm just glad we're sort of moving into the right direction. I think Friday was the first time that we were allowed to not have to wear masks at work in the warehouse. So things are looking up for us in Victoria. We had our, I think, 180 days of the stuff that you're going through now. So, but I wish everybody in Sydney the best of luck. But you know, once everybody needs to get with the program, and then the pain doesn't last as long. But you know what people are like, you know. And Colin, out your way, mate. You all in the same state. How are things over in where you are?
We don't have stay at home, because we're in Newcastle, so it's a little bit different. So,
okay,
we can still go out, but we're staying at home anyway. My work, they're working from home, so.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Here's we have an imposter here. We've got Garth Rankin, but I think Faye's accessing his profile. What's going on?
Faye in Facebook jail again. Yeah.
Is Faye in Facebook jail?
She's always in Facebook jail. She's a rebel.
Yeah. I had a bit of so there's no real recipe here this afternoon. If you've got a question, yell out, ask us a question. It's deep in breeding season at the moment. These gentlemen would know exactly what's going on. They'll give you a little bit of a insight. All three of you are busy with putting pairings together. I'm busy with building pieces and stuff, all the good stuff that you do outside. When you don't have reptiles to play with, you find other things to play with, other expensive things to play with. And yeah, so if you've got a question, throw it out there. If you've got a, please share this feed into your groups if you don't mind. It gets the numbers up, and we'll try and get to the question. So you'll see the you guys can monitor the chat. You should be able to access the chat as well. I don't know, Brent. I'll yell out if there's something there that I think I don't know. Can you see the chat, Brent?
Yeah, it's popping up on the side.
We were just mentioning earlier that Brent's got is doing this stream from his bedroom. He's taken the easy life today. Didn't feel like
Luxury life, luxury. I was in the shed all morning feeding, though, so I've done my 3 hours. Now I'm retiring.
Yeah, no, that's. I'm not criticizing. I'm not criticizing. I'm just observing.
3 hours.
Yeah. And he would be on the couch right now with his dog in his lap if it wasn't for this show that I roped him into today. So that's good.
Yep.
So any reptile related news? Is anybody? Let's start with Darren. Darren, I asked you earlier, but you can mention it again. So where about in your breeding season? What are you up to at the moment? Are you still cooling? Are you putting them together? Are you? What are you up to? And what's the plan ahead?
Well, a few plans. I'm not actually going to have a big season this season, just because I was away for work through what I consider a crucial part of my feeding regime coming into breeding season. So a lot of the girls that I normally would have been shoving food into didn't get fed for the best part 8 or 9 weeks through a period where I would have been feeding, minimum once a week to those girls. Not necessarily big, massive meals, but just a constant flow of food for them. So some kind of borderline condition. So I've taken it this year probably to have less clutches. So I don't know, maybe 15, maybe 20 clutches or something a bit quieter. So I started introducing carpets.
40.
Just a tip here from Vinny. Darren, can you just sit a little bit closer to your mic?
Yeah. There we go. I'll put it in. So better?
Yeah, I don't know if that's. That sounds like your sound is coming through your laptop. Did you choose your mic input on the? Choose your mic input on your little gear there. Because your sound was a lot better last time. Sorry, guys, we're just figuring it out. I've noticed it as well. Brent said it as well. Just on the restream, you have to specify on that little gear there. Just click on that and tell.
Is that coming through better?
No, it still sounds like it's coming through.
Does that make it better if I speak like that? Because that'll.
Yeah, you don't. Definitely going through the laptop. You're not plugged in with the mic.
I think you need the audio input set to that microphone, does.
Yeah, audio input needs to be set to whatever mic that is on the restream.
How's that?
Can talk again?
Is that better?
No. And maybe just plug it out and plug it back in. I don't think it might not have been detected. Switch it on and off. It was beautiful, that mic, last time. So we'll figure that out.
It's because I'm not using
while Darren figures out what's going on there. It sounds like you're on the other side of a door. That's exactly what it sounds like. Yep. Is it plugged in? Maybe just switch.
Your technical difficulties.
So, how's that going?
Nah. You should just be able to choose it on the restream. If you go into that little gear, it should give you audio input, audio output. Audio outputs are probably going to be your mic that you're using there. But let's ask Brent while Darren figures that out. We'll get back with Darren. Brent, where are you at the moment with your breeding season so far?
Full swing now. It's all pairings going. I was a little bit hesitant to get going too early, but the cold's really kicked in now in Sydney. We've had some cracking cold mornings in the past fortnight, so I'm not checking everything every morning, just doing the pairings and trusting in the system that they'll get it done. So it's it's this. I think in the next couple of weeks is the prime time when I look back at ovulations to egg laying. This late period in July seems to be when all the magic happens at my place. So, so hopefully all going. I've certainly noticed a few locks at night time when I've gone in to shuffle males around and pull some out for a rest. I've gone to pull some stuff out and definitely a few locked up in there. So there'll be some eggs at least, hopefully, all going well.
Yeah, hang on there.
Can you guys hear me yet? Is that better?
No. For some reason, you just give me another look. There's another guy joining, another Darren. Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. I lost it when I unplugged it all, so I just reopened it and closed it all down. I don't know if that's made a difference with the microphone.
No, it's still the same. I don't know. Sometimes I have to sometimes unplug things and plug it back in. For some reason, these laptops do that. Colin, if you're a Mac user, then you don't have these issues apparently. So they say. I don't know.
Yeah,
Colin, you had a lockup this week as well. You had some olive love going there.
Mate, yep. I put my male in with the big het girl, and he locked us that night. Left him for a week, and then rotated him around another girl, an albino girl. So, and then he locked her like within 20 minutes.
Yeah, well, that's good.
And then had some marbled children's lock up, and
bits and pieces. Yeah.
I'm not breeding 40 clutches.
Yeah, that's great.
No way.
Yeah, no. How many clutches are you making, Brad? What are you focusing on this? Here we go. I need to set mic priority in Windows. Yeah, you need to maybe set mic priority. Darren's perplexed there. It's
got me. Everything I'm using this microphone, but I don't know why it's not picking up.
It says he just said it may need to set mic priority in Windows. Yeah, so I don't know. Probably just in the settings stuff, but maybe that's something. We'll just tolerate that for now. We've had worse in the past, so I don't know.
Windows sets the microphone as well. I'll just check the beam.
Yeah, that's crazy that it's because it doesn't
microphone.
Is it switched on that mic?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Oh
well, let's not get too bogged down in the microphone dramas. So, is there any questions? I'm trying to think here. I just saw. We were just watching Conor McGregor's leg getting broken before as well. Not that we're laughing. We'll never laugh at somebody's misfortune, but I don't think that maybe that's a sign now to maybe retire or to step out of it when your bones start. But how does stuff like that happen? A broken leg in a kick, like, man.
The coach said break a leg in there, and he did. So,
it's easy to do. I did the same years ago. I used to do mixed martial arts and kickboxing, like back when I was in the early 20s, sparring a guy training for a fight, and same thing. I did a left leg kick to the head, and as I stepped back, I just stood back wrong, rolled my ankle, and cracked the bone straight across the top of the ankle joint. Straight on the ground. The guy's going, I've knocked him out. I'm like, dude, you never laid a hand on me. It's my ankle, and that ankle was like a tennis ball straight away. So it can happen. It's just one of those things.
When you said like a few years ago, I was like, nah, it can't be a few years. And then it's like 25 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah. Too old for this shit now, man.
None of us
are decades ago.
Nowadays, just getting out of bed should be danger pay. If you get to our age, you're like sort of wary. You look around the corner before you go around the corner. You just don't want to get injured,
Yeah, see it. High work risk certificate.
Yes, Benny says you could break both my legs 100 times for how much money he got paid today. He'll be there. That's also true. I'd get my legs broken a few times as well if I could get that type of money for one day's work. I can't imagine what. So we're totally talking not about reptiles, but we wait for the questions to come in. There's only a few people watching, so remember to share. We don't normally ask, but share. Daniel Boswell, hello. everybody, the green tree python guys, they'd be pretty busy at the moment. The green tree pythons usually start early. I wouldn't be surprised if there's guys with gravid females already. What's anything happening? Oh, you've got the 2 girls, Brent. So yeah, no go there. The children's pythons and spotted as well, Darren. What's the activity levels like? That type of stuff is also sort of close to being gravid right about this time of year, isn't it?
Yeah, a lot of my stuff's going quite late this season. Like I said, I did actually try to delay that to try to get feeding to a lot of the girls that I didn't get the chance to feed up. But as you saw me before, just here I was just playing up with a few of the smaller stimmies and stuff and parenting's up, and there was a couple of ones up to size this season that I just held back the whole clutch and thought I should really sex those. So I was just doing that before. So they've just paired up back here, and they're all keen raring to go. I haven't got any gravid at this point, but I still a lot of them still hooking up and mating and stuff like that. A few of the carpets are starting to do the same thing. I've had a number of lockups with some of the carpets, but like I said, I won't be doing a massive season. Just trying to produce some pretty stuff more than anything else.
You always say I won't be doing a massive.
Not a massive.
Even you laugh at that comment of yourself. That's just come on. Let's just.
My wife says the same thing, mate.
We try and run an honest show, and you coming in with those falsities, mate. Come on, we don't want misinformation. They tell these people that you're not doing stuff that you are doing behind the scenes. Come on, mate. There is a question here, and Carl is starting to get annoyed with us that we didn't answer the question. Carl asked. We missed the question probably because there's a lot of stuff happening here. How good is reptile sand? This is sort of up your lane, Darren. With beardies, it's sort of the same topic as we always get with the beardies. How good is reptile sand for Bredli, and does it hold the heat very well?
I've never kept any snake on sand at all. I'm not a fan of the slithering kind on sand in captivity. I mean, look, I know they do it out in the wild, and it doesn't seem to worry them, but if I was going to keep them in a substrate, I'd probably keep them in like aspen bedding or something like that. That's more friendly for in captivity use, and I think safer. I use everything on paper. I've done substrates and all different sorts of substrates. I've done pretty much everything, and I just keep going back to newspaper or other people like Brent that use butcher's paper if you want to pay for it or whatever, but. I'm not sand. If you go to bearded dragons, will it hold the heat? Yeah, sand will hold the heat if it's warmed up, but you need to make sure if you're running heat from underneath that sand, you need to make sure you've got that thermostated correctly with the probe sitting on top of the sand, because you can melt heat mats and stuff if you've got a timber desk, a heat mat, and then a couple of inches of sand on top of that, and you're trying to warm it underneath, and your probe's halfway up and enclosure somewhere, you're asking for a fire. So
I just don't like the idea that sand gets stuck on their food and stuff, and eventually, I'm sure they can handle that. Reptiles in the wild doesn't have people cleaning their food for them. But
they don't have wet food either. They're being dry prey.
Yeah. Mm. So the stuff doesn't stick to it. You might have a little bit of things clinging to blood if the animal bleeds from its nose, like they constantly do with pythons constricting them. But yeah, I just don't like that. I do think that it would keep, desert sand tends to get very compacted as well. So it goes hard, and if it gets wet and it gets baked, then it does go hard. And I think it would probably retain heat pretty well. I can't think that it would.
I used to keep my Ackies on it and some beardies, and I used to use bricky sand. So, I mean, because it's kind of more clayish based, I suppose, the colour does wash off on the animals sometimes, but at the end of the day, it's the fact that, like you said, it does compact quite deep, and for a burrowing or an animal that likes to dig and, like Ackies do, under things and make holes, it's good for that, because they can actually dig in underneath, some fake rocks or something or other. I never use real rocks, just fake ones. And they could dig in and make themselves a little burrow and curl up and be quite happy and have their little home, little nest as such, whereas some of the other beach type sands that are quite collapsible, I've never really been a fan of that. But yeah, for snakes, no, I've never used a sand for snakes. That's one substrate for snakes I've never used.
Question time here for one for Brent. From Faisy. I can't believe she's in Facebook. She's like me. I had 3 days in Facebook jail this week, and I saw friends' birthdays go past, and the world. And you know what? I shared something on Facebook from 2012 that was okay to share in 2012, and now it was seen as some heinous crime.
Offensive.
Like literally, I didn't even share it on Facebook. I sent it in Messenger to my wife to have a laugh, and it picked it up in Messenger, and it banned me from Facebook for 3 days. It's ridiculous at the moment, but let's move on. Do you really need to give the boys a rest during breeding? I just leave them in there unless I'm putting one male over a couple of females. What's your input on that, Brand?
I do rest males, I find, after they've had a lock. So if I put a male in and I can definitely see a lock, I like to give them a day off to relax. But certainly I have moved males. You know, if I've got one male going 3 or 4 girls, I certainly will move them through the whole 4 girls and then give them a rest, you know, a day or 2 off after that.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, I sort of started doing some random pairings, and then I pulled all the boys out for a weekend and just gave them the whole lot just to rest for a couple of days, and then back in. But I certainly know people who don't rest them at all, just leave them paired up for the entire season. I certainly think it helps to get them in and out. They seem to get that reinvigorated bit of excitement when they come back in and pick up those pheromones, and you can see them sniffing around, and you know, certainly promotes a little bit more action when they're in and out.
Yeah. Colin, what do you do? Do you leave your males in for extended periods, or do you chop and do you take them out? How long would you normally leave your males in?
Oh, like I've done upstairs. He locked, and then as soon as he locks, he doesn't try and lock again. This male,
yeah.
So he's in with a female at the moment, but there's nothing happening. But I know if I swap him over, so it's been about a week in with that girl. So now if I swap him back tonight, he'll lock straight away with the new girl. So.
Okay, and with the
cage is big enough because I have big cages. You know that he is having a rest.
Would you do the same with your children's? How do you angle and how do you cycle your children's? The same?
Put them together. That's like when I used to do the blue tongues. I'd put them together. They would lock, and then I'd separate them, and then I'd do the same thing around the same time the next day.
Oh, okay. So it's the one. So as soon as they stop, you separate them, and then you reintroduce them in another day.
I'd do that twice, and that was it.
Oh, okay. So that I was always a fan of putting the male in for a day, and usually they would lock, and then when they stop mating, then you take them out for a day, and then you put them in the next day again with another female, and then over weekends I used to give them a weekend break. I'm a nice guy, you know. I don't want to. I don't like the chicken battery end type situation. So it seems to do them good. Well, if you've got enough males and you can afford doing that, but a lot of people run with minimal males.
Yeah.
If you've got a spare male, you can always throw in a second male in that's got the same genetics, of course, and then give that guy a break. That's the ideal situation, is to have 2 alternating males that carry the same genetics over the females, and then you have a far better chance of getting the girl gravid. You know, there's a few peripherals that play into that whole scenario, but you don't want to wear your males down. And usually I noticed that when the males were sort of done with the season, they'd go through a shed cycle, and then after that, they wouldn't be interested in the females anymore. I'm sure there'll be outliers, but that's just my own observations. Let's move on. So here's one for Emma. Hello, Emma. I haven't seen you for Emma Dixon. Darren, your most exciting pairing this season? Go.
Oh,
one of the 40 clutches.
To be honest, I don't know. I do. What I'm trying to crack, I've had a bit of fun trying to get these to go. I haven't had any luck yet. I still get my high yellow diamonds to go. They got a lot more size on them and conditioning on them this season from what they had. I really smashed some food into them in the off season, so to speak. So they're something I'm constantly getting asked by people about babies. Oh, you're breeding this year? I've been offered some, decent money to buy the adults, but I'm like, nah, I need to breed them.
Yeah.
I can't sell them. So that's one. If I could get that underway, would be nice. What else have I got? I put a Ghost Zeb over a Sunglow Jag. that'd make, to get a bit of clutch out of that'd be nice, just for some genetic mix up. Get some caramel Z-Jag, double het Z albinos.
Yeah.
Out of that. What else? I don't know.
I guess I guess of all the breeders that I know, you probably would be one of the few that would have. It'd be you and David Evans though with the silver stuff that would have. They would be making the next. You'd be making silver pepper super zebras and stuff like that. You'd be one of the first to do that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I missed unfortunately, I was away when a lot of stuff laid eggs last season, and I actually had a silver pepper over a Z last year, and she laid a perfectly viable clutch, but unfortunately I wasn't here. She laid them on, the warm end of the draw that she was in, as you do. By the time I got back, they were all hard and dry and rotten. So
you still put them in the incubator?
Yeah, I still chucked them in the incubator. You never know, like you like. And
was she trying to hatch them? Was she trying to incubate them though?
Yeah, she was caught up on them, but the eggs they were like hard as rocks. Like I don't know how long ago she laid. I was away for 3 months during that period. So whether she laid them 6 weeks prior or 3 days prior, I have no idea, because my wife's not going to go looking at any of the adults. She's seen what they do when feeding time's around, and no matter say it's breeding season, it's different. They don't come out trying to eat your face off, but wouldn't touch them, unfortunately. So I've actually had her together again this season with the silver pepper male, and they've locked as well. So to see a pet the zebra would be pretty cool. If all goes well and to plan and does everything right, that would be cool. I know these two are compatible because she's produced eggs from the same male last season, so fingers crossed that comes about. So yeah, I think Dave should be producing some nice stuff too. He's probably got a few different combinations to what I have. So
I was quite surprised at the variety with the stuff that you had on display at the Penrith Expo. They do show a lot of it's a lot of potential. I mean, they definitely that hypo stuff is really nice, but you don't want them super hypo. You want them just hypo, so there's still a little bit of the silver pepper going through it. I think a super hypo would really just wash out what the silver pepper adds to the mix.
There's heaps of variation in it. Like it's such an untouched gene, really. When there's not a lot of people working with the gene outside the pure pepper, so to speak.
Yeah.
And from what I've seen, just from like my, the original pepper albinos I produced, from a pure Darwin to the pure pepper girl, the variation in the peppers, the Posset albino peppers coming out of those clutches, it's just great. Everything from like really striped ones to almost patternless ones. Like I did have them at the show, but they're all in bloody shed as normal. It's like just typical. You go to the show and think, oh yeah, I'll take that, because Mike's always yelling at me because everything's like, Posset this or het for that, and it's all wild type looking. She said, you need to take some of your nicer animals along to show people, which I normally, I don't know, I do it for myself more than anything else. I just can't be bothered half the time, but I did, and unfortunately they're all in the shed, which kind of sucked. But I think there's so much that can still come from it. It'll be interesting to see some of the results that Dave and some of the other guys get from doing their outcrossings to see what the pattern produces. Like I said, the variation I've seen in mine is crazy, and you're just like, wow, that's different. So, and I'm seeing it consistently as well. It's not like I've produced one random anomaly sort of thing in a clutch. Like I've actually now got a couple of striped peppers. I think one of the original albino pepper that I hatched, which actually looks like your typical silver pepper, I actually hatched 2, but the other one shows virtually no pattern. You can't see it. And now that it actually feeds really well, it's eating hopper rats almost on the wiener rats sort of thing in comparison to the other one that wouldn't feed, that's eating pinky rats. And you're just starting to see the pattern coming through, because it was basically just a yellow snake. And it's you're starting to see the striped pattern, I suppose, from the silver peppers now. There's a real distinct stripe down the back, and you can start to see some of the
Well,
colours.
is it a white and yellow snake, or is it orange and stuff?
It's pretty much all yellow. Eh? Like honestly, like it was a real struggle to see. You could see some slight pattern in it. It was born with red eyes, and I thought, oh, maybe it is. But because I couldn't see any pattern in it, because it was one of the first clutches of outcrossed, multi-gene combinations, I wasn't sure whether the solid red eyes was a trait that was going to carry through in a visible albino pepper at the time.
Yeah.
Now that I've got that, and the ghost peppers and caramel peppers and all that sort of stuff, so I've produced a few different visual genetic combinations, and they all have a solid black eye. Yeah. So now that I've seen that, now in the albino, I've then gone back and gone, okay, you got a solid red eye. I'm pretty, 99% positive it's an albino pepper.
Yeah.
I've always thought it was, but I've always been hesitant. Hence, I've never really posted photos or anything of it, sort of thing, because it just doesn't photograph. You take a photo, it's just like a yellow snake with red eyes.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the future, what's going to come from those, and who knows? Like the caramels are looking really nice. They're all feeding really well. The ghost is feeding really well. The xanthic peppers are feeding really well. So I don't know. Like when you start mixing some of the other combinations, and I reckon there's heaps. I reckon there's so much variation that will come from it. But it's a time will tell sort of thing, I guess.
Awesome, Brent. What are you? Are you falling asleep there, mate?
I'm here, mate. I'm here.
He's on his bed. Surprising you.
Electric blankets on
now and then.
Probably get his toes massaged as well.
Action bench.
Toes licked. He's getting his toes licked by that dog of his. Yeah, I reckon
that dog's locked out. Dog won't be happy.
Okay, what are you? What are you anticipating this season? What's your most anticipated clutch for the 2021? If there's something,
probably a few.
What?
Probably a few for visuals. Nothing groundbreaking, but Olives will be the first time I'll get the Olives to go after she slugged out last year. After I made a rookie error pulling the boy out too early, I think, and being a carpet guy, you'll see the Olives. She swelled up huge, and I thought, oh, she's done. That's an ovulation. And then about 3 weeks later, I saw the real ovulation, like she'd eaten a football. So I thought, okay, well, that was some bad timing on my behalf. So this year, that boy will stay in there until she lays the eggs, I think, to make sure. And again, I'll try for the Granite Cross Silver Pepper, 2 years running. Terrible results just from the albino Granite male, who's managed to get one clutch out, each year for the last 2 years, being useless, and probably me pushing him a bit hard, trying to get him to do 5 or 6 girls. Not the greatest results, so I'll try with a young silver pepper male to the albino Granite girl this year to get those heads underway.
She'd have some good size on her. That granite albino female though, wouldn't she? She'd be
She's a big girl. Yeah, she'd be over 3 kilos now. She's a very solid animal.
Yeah, have you bred? Did you get a clutch out of her last year, or is this going to be her first year?
Yep. No, she did the Ghost Jag to albino Granite last year for the triple hets.
Okay.
So she's in great shape.
Does she do good sized clutches? Or that clutch?
Yeah, I think she had 19 eggs from that pairing last year. So yeah, great size clutch. Probably too much for a clutch that's an entire holdback. It's many to hold.
I was just asking.
12 would be good.
How many did you sell? Probably wouldn't sell.
None.
Keep all the females and just a couple of males, and the rest will never see anybody else's collection.
Yep.
Colin, what? Oh yeah, sorry, go mate. Sorry.
No, that's all. That's about all that I was. That's funny enough. One of the not so crazy pairings either is a little caramel zebra jag I've got that's really striped. I know you had those really crazy striped zebra jags in your collection years ago, and I know you may have had a few as well that in the albinos and sunglows that really stripy stuff. And I've got a really nice caramel zebra jag head albino that's going to a sunglow that hopefully will make some fantastic sunglow zebras, sunglow zebra jags. So that's one that I'll be keeping a close eye on. Hopefully they get it done.
Good. I guess the trick with any striping is to keep the striping in the group. Like have outcrossed striped from that certain lineage, and then you just keep putting them back to each other with different combinations of and then the striping will start working its way out.
Yep, it's in the DNA there somewhere.
Yeah. Colin, what are you looking forward to the most in this? I know what you're really looking forward to the most, but reptile-wise, what are you looking to, what are you looking
myself?
I'm going to keep it clean, but what are you looking forward to the most this year, at 2021? The great year.
I just like, I don't know, just the olives again, just trying that. So because I've moved them too, like, people don't realize if you move stuff around it constantly in different temperature zones. So now they're up in where I live, so the temperatures aren't as cold and all that sort of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see if I can get them to go.
So you be sitting there at night in your bedroom like this, and you've got cameras on it, and you watch.
I just walk out, mate, and have a look.
But that is one of those species that you want to nail them to really say you've mastered that species.
They're difficult.
You need to get them consecutive years for at least 5 years. Then you can say, "I've mastered." I can breed olives, and it's not just luck.
I got a cheat sheet off Troy. I got it last year. I thought I'd seen the ovulation and all that, and I got nothing.
But that's what you did, Brent, as well.
Troy, and he sent me a cheat sheet on what to do. So if you don't see anything, you got to spike the heat up for like 2 weeks, and then try again. And so,
gee, this Eldon, this chat is going crazy. Let's just go. We need to go a little bit faster. So there's a question here. Which one product that the Australian reptile hobby is which product is missing in the Australian reptile hobby? Something maybe you have to make yourself because it's available to buy. What do you reckon, Brent? What's missing in the hobby here?
Bigger range of thermostats. I think that's something that's not a new product, but it's not. It seemed like there was certainly more choices in years gone by. Now it's very limited for a good quality high-end thermostat. There's plenty of cheap Chinese stuff out there, but the high-end stuff not as good. And incubation tubs. I know a lot of people make their own with bread crates and light grading and all that sort of stuff. But I think a purpose-built tub, hatchie style tub, would also be good. There's a few things that are sort of the hobbies had that have disappeared over the years. So if anything, we've gone backwards. Yeah, well, that's another one. It's one that we had in the bag and have lost. So racking and housing things is certainly something everyone needs, and there's not, besides going to a custom builder, there's nothing off the shelf anymore.
I do think that with the racks, I mean, the problem with the racks is at the moment is the import. I think the import is very for a small industry like the reptile industry in Australia. I just think that at the moment, for any small business that wants to bring a racking solution for reptile keepers, I just don't think it's going to be cost effective at the moment. I think
you can only do it for yourself, and you're going to pay a fortune.
Yeah, I think 2 years from now, what we do need is, I've been talking to somebody that I know about, you need somebody that's a welder in Australia, that can do TIG welding on stainless steel or whatever, that goes, okay, I'm going to set up racks. He pays for a couple of molds, maybe 2 or 3 sizes, because we don't need those big boa python tubs. I mean, they're great for carpets, but they're too big, Darren. I mean, the height of them are like too high. They're too wide. You need something that's narrow. That's about maybe a foot longer than a V70. Maybe a little bit wider, just a little bit. But you need something sort of 2/3 the width of a boa tub and the same length, and not that high.
Well, you do need the depth, because when you start getting to the larger pythons, and I find it in some of the CB, even the CB70s. You get some stuff, and I wouldn't say that it's too big for the tub, but you get a decent sized animal that eats an extra large rat, and they coil up on it. In some ways, you can't shut the door. And that's why that extra bit of height is actually nice, particularly in the python racks, where you can put a larger python. The 4 area is quite large. You've got plenty of room to move around.
Yeah,
I bought that BCR racking, and that's been pretty good for me.
But they're also expensive. I mean,
it is expensive, but you can buy it level by level. So that's what I like about it.
But the best way to get around it is just somebody that can weld, and and the ideal situation would be to build a rack like the Vision racks, where you can, in one rack, in a V70, you can fit a V70 tub, or you can fit 2 V35 tubs. That's the great. I mean, I love Freedom.
Modular design.
I love all these racking companies. I love racks, but Vision has the perfect solution when it comes to racks and
Whoa.
but you know how the racks behind you, Darren. You can have a shallow V35 in the space where there's 2 hatching tubs. That is a great solution, because then you can have you've got the template for every rack to build the shells.
Yeah, but you've also got the smaller tubs at the 6 level as well, which I also have, which I often put my magnets in. So they're in the other.
So if you can get somebody that can come up with a level that can weld levels like that together, that's not too cost prohibitive, then I'd rather get the import containers full of tubs, even from overseas, and get the levels assembled over in Australia. I still think that would be cheaper than but I don't know, the import duties for at the moment. Further down the line, I mean, like I'll have to. I sold all my racks, but guys like us could always club together in, say, 2 or 3 years' time and put an order in. There's no direct supplier anymore for any of the racking companies overseas. We could get together and get a few more guys and say, look, how many racks do you want to order? And we put a bulk order in and import them. Import a container load for whoever's interested. I mean, that's going to be the other option to solve that problem when it comes to racks.
That's what makes Vision so good, is the fact that they're relatively easily assembled and they're flat packed. You're talking about, as soon as you go to a steel or a metal of sorts, you have a weight issue unless it's aluminium, and then the rigidity of that and the long lastingness. I mean, you can pull these racks apart, take them outside, hit them with a hose, gurney them, drown them in F10, soak them overnight in the tub if you want, and you got 6, whatever it is.
Yeah,
six metal rods in there you can take out, give them a clean down, oil them up with some WD-40, whatever, to preserve it, and sell it as almost a brand new rack other than some used tubs. And it's hygienic.
Yeah.
The problem with the steel rack is these fold down to almost nothing, as you know. Like, you can literally put all the boards on top of each other. Even the posts in the middle screw apart.
That would be. I didn't think about the weight. The weight would be an issue, but does Brent, you'd know more, containers, do they go by weight, or do you just pay per volume per container? Do they weigh the containers?
No, it's all done by cubic space, unless it's something exceptionally heavy, but you're basically paying per meter inside the container. So you can buy a shared container space, so you can buy 2-3 meters of a container and fill it up with what you need to. It's obviously more expensive buying a small share of a container but obviously the volumes involved in, everyone thinks it's easy, I just get a container in, but when you look at what's cubic space in a 20-foot container of how much product that is to bring in, you're talking about $200,000 worth of stock, when you're talking at racking or tubs. So it's not as easy as just dumping a container in and then selling it off. You need to warehouse that stuff somewhere. It's hard to freight, it's bulky. And you got that up front cost. You pay for that before it hits the boat. So,
but I think that's what Steve usually. I think Steve came to an arrangement where he just ordered the parts. So you could probably save a lot of space if you buy boxes full of the rods, and you buy boxes full of the panels, or you loose stack it into the container and then just have boxes for your small bits like your spacers and your screws and stuff. And you can get the majority of the stuff you can get locally, but now me trying to fix racks and getting racks up and going, I know that there's certain bits and pieces that you just cannot find locally. Like those rods, you cannot buy them locally unless you buy frames, chrome shelves, and you throw away
modify it.
And you use the rods for that. So there are parts that a lot of the stuff you can't get over here. But I think that there's definitely a market. There's more of a market for them now than there was when they originally imported the racks. Any other products so thermostats and you've already solved. So there's enough long heat cables. I know at one stage there was a shortage of long heat cables. You can get all the short lengths, but now you can get 15 and 20 meters. And I think a Vision rack runs better on a 20-meter heat cable than on a 15-meter heat cable. I'd rather have leftover cable sitting on top of the rack than not have enough length of a cable to sorry, we're talking racks now for everybody that's watching, but I do think that the reptile keeping industry is sort of like it's like a graph that you can it's like a waveform graph at the moment, where in the early days, there was a lot of newbies in the industry that wouldn't see the value in a rack. Now that we've progressed 10 years down the line, I think that there's a lot more of that mid-tier reptile keeper now that has a large collection and that needs a solution. Sorry, I'm on a roll now, so don't
You're waving your hands a lot.
My wife says I look stupid here because I'm like sitting at a funny angle here, just like I'm at the bar, just leaning, But I think there's a lot more of that mid-tier reptile keeper now that's had like 5 or 10 years, 5 years of keeping under the belt, Darren. Now they sort of see the value in a plastic cage or a rack, and now you can't find that stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
It's crazy. I was looking at doing PVC cages 5 in 2014. I was looking at that, and I couldn't get people interested in it. But I bet you, if I come up with a range of PVC cages now, there'd be people who would buy it because they've seen what the people over in America have, and I reckon the people will buy them a lot. There'd be a lot stronger market at the moment for more advanced reptile gear.
I've got one of the original Vision enclosures.
Oh,
yeah. I bought that over 20 years ago, and I still got it. Still works perfectly fine. Yeah, it's a bit old, and but it's a plastic enclosure with big 6mm glass doors on it. It's a decent size one. It's like 1200 by 1200 or something, or whatever it is. 1200 by 900 or something like that. And I still use it today.
Did you ever see those? I went to Jason Boy's house one year. He got me up there to talk snake stuff, shit, He had I saw one of the big Vision 1.8 meter cages. You could literally lie on that in that thing. That's how big it was. It was. I just don't think it'd be such a mission to ship them if they molded cage.
No, they're
fragile.
Yeah, or I think something that can flat back. Some of the cages that I've seen over in America, I've seen that if you can get like a range that's flat backed, that comes with pre-made holes for screws, and that's got like a clip-on fold down door or something like that with a shelf in there for your carpets to sit on and bask. I think those seem to sell really well here. And it'd be very easy to ship, and it'd be very lightweight to ship as well.
It's the volume and the cost. That's what kills everything, especially if it's like through the US, with the dollar exchange, the taxes, and everything else that goes along with it.
You need somebody here with a CNC routing machine that sees the value in developing a cage range for Australia, and then hoping that you can get the PVC, expanded PVC sheets for a good price from overseas.
But it always stems back to the same thing: the manufacturing cost. The cost of manufacturing it out here versus the cost of a lot of stuff being made in China and Pakistan, wherever it's being made overseas, is so much smaller and so much cheaper. And because the cost of getting that made in, let's say, China, for example, and taken to the US is so much cheaper. That's why I said as soon as you come to Australia, they go, Australia, they throw all this tax on it, shipping costs because we're an island in the middle of nowhere. So, the expense of all that goes through the roof, especially if you're bringing in, the only way you could bring in a large container, this goes back to the days when we used to wholesale up here for URS back in the day. I would bring up glass enclosures and I would make sure, I would tell Tim, fill it, just top to bottom. If there's room in it, tell me, and I'll buy more stuff to fill it. And you'd have to literally do the same thing. You'd have to we talk about a 6-foot enclosure or 8-foot enclosure or something 2,500 wide or whatever it is. You literally have to make sure you've got a ton of other products to fill that to the brim, so that you're maximising, the volume you're paying for in a container is full. You don't want to miss out on 10% volume. If you can shove something in it, whether that's a light bulb or a set of probes to fill it whole, you need to fill the space, because as Brent was saying, you're paying for a cubic volume. If you fit, I don't know, 100 enclosures in there, and that's it. How much more stuff could you shove in there? And unless you can afford to bring all that other product in and have a point of sale out here to do it, the cost becomes prohibitive.
Yeah. There was another question here. Let me just quickly see. A question. I'm not too familiar with green tree snakes. Let's just see. Maybe we can answer it. What's the question?
Actually, I got one more thing for a product.
There you go, bro.
These geniuses that have these 3D printing machines, something that's always pissed me right off is thermostats sitting on top of racks or enclosures because the cords hang out the bottom of them. And I've used little right angle things. I've made double-sided Velcro things for them to sit, But if someone could design a tube that slides over the top of those little the rods that sit out the top of the vision rack and have on an angle facing downwards, so you can basically look up at the top of the rack and look straight at your thermostat. That would be a brilliant idea.
I think Freedom Breeder has a like a rack mount that you can buy.
Yeah.
For their Freedom Breeder has a range of their own thermostats as well. So, but it literally, if you look at some of the Americans' rooms, they rep snake rooms, you can see the thermostats. If you look at Justin Kabilko's reptile room, you can see the thermostats are sitting at the top and they're pivoting downwards like that. It's like a metal bracket that screws onto the top of those ARS rackings and Freedom Breeder racks. So they do exist. I do think as well that the guy, that Chris Eagleton that did the iStats, he did work on, I think he did make a bracket for these thermostats to mount them, but we all know how that story ended.
Mm-hmm. I got the brand new one in the other day and threw it in the bin the next.
What, you got it? What, an iStat?
Yeah, Brett and I are going back a while. We bought, I don't know, what was it? I think I bought like 20, something like that. 10 small and 10 of the bigger ones. Yeah. Well, I've thrown within the space of, how long would that be, Brent? Like 2, maybe 3 years tops?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a couple of the little ones die, but all the big ones are going pretty good. I've only had one of the larger ones die, which I
revived it, didn't I?
Yes, sent it to the engineer to breathe life into it.
But there was phases of iStats because the first stuff was all made by hand. And you can attest to the quality of the first because Chris made all the first ones. He got the circuit boards made locally in England, and he assembled all of that stuff by hand. And then he started to get machines involved, and it was sort of during that period when he started getting the machines involved to go for international production, overspend, that the quality checks weren't made. And I think it's during that phase when the little ones started coming out, and they're only as good as your quality your checks, your quality control that you do. But I still have all of the ones that I got in the first load. I mean, I've got one here that does 2,500 watts, 2,400 watts. So it could literally, if you were so inclined, do a wall in a snake room that's temperature controlled. You can literally connect a heater, oil heater to that thing, and it would keep it it could handle that type of wattage, thicker cables, bloody everything. And I agree with Brent, a decent thermostat range. I mean, the Herbstats were good as well. I can't tell you guys enough how good the Herbstats are, and they've even implemented a one now that hooks up with Wi-Fi, that hooks up with your data software that you use. That the Herb Husbandry Pro that the guys are carrying on about, that I've seen popping up over on the internet. That all integrates now, so you've got your heating devices, your racks, everything gets wirelessly connected to your record keeping. That's the type of stuff that we need now. I think it's still maybe a little bit premature at the moment, maybe another 5 years. And I think the guys that are sort of mid-tier now, in 5 years' time, they'd be all for spending money on the expensive toys, because it's a toy for us. Anybody can get away with a cheap thermostat, and you can go on eBay and find $30 thermostats that you go, no, it does the same job. No, it doesn't do that. It does. You cannot compare those cheap shit thermostats, you only have to lose a whole rack full of snakes, once for you to go,
Never
is it
again.
really worth that? Was it really worth $30?
Mm.
That's my biggest tip to young reptile keepers. Get proper heat cables, get proper thermostats, try and buy rather save up another 2 or 3 months to buy the gear that is, the best gear that you can afford, then go onto and get the cheapest, nastiest equipment, because you will pay the price eventually. You will. There's no way around it. Sorry, that sounded a bit preachy, but I'm in a preachy mood.
Oh wow!
Preacher.
What's
Preacher,
new?
preacher.
Yeah.
Praise the Lord.
There's somebody. Let me just see. Oh yes, Marty Baja. He knows all about iStat. Let's just put that there. Rip me off 20K. Hello, Marty. How are you, mate? You should be on the show with us. He went to go and see Joe Ball yesterday.
Went to see what, Joe's balls?
Joe's balls, yes. He was running around with. I see Joe's got all manner of creatures now. Ostriches, crazy. Why would you keep ostriches? But I guess,
That's a good feed. Big
they
legs.
looked like they were albino. They did look like a variant. The typical. They were normal ones, and then there were these ones that looked like like ghosts almost. And I think they might have been something different as well. Joe wouldn't keep something if there wasn't maybe some way of helping the daily life get better. Let me just quickly see what are the herb stats available. No, they doesn't. The thing with the herb stats were he made a run early days. He did a 230 volt or 230 volt or 240 volt one that
UK and
that used to work in Europe, and he stopped. He made me a batch of Herbstat 2s because I begged him for it. It had these small little adapter cables on the back because it took the American plugs, but it had the output was Australian plug. And then those thermostats just take the normal the 6 or the computer cables, the thick, I don't know what the head is called on the back of a computer, but they take those cables to connect to any outlet, and that was the good thing with Herbstats. You could import just the boxes, and then you could attach the wires. You can buy the wires locally off eBay, and you could rig it up to be the probes were also like. The probes were like 15 foot long, like that's the other thing about thermostats. They always have these short little 6 foot, not even like 5 foot long probe cables. And it's useless in a rack. You need something that can go 10 foot down. Like you need something like at least 3.5 meters that you can put that probe anywhere you want. I mean, we all know these are the fine print things that nobody tells you when you start keeping reptiles or when you keep racks, switch to
thermostats. Power supply and power output as well. They all nearly always run those short. So then you've got something up the top of the rack where you've got the thermostats. Then you've got to run extension leads off that to get it down to the power points or the power packs you've got running out of the wall, which are often down at floor level sort of thing. They never give you. And that was one thing I did like with the iStats. The actual power plug-in, the actual lead coming out of the thermostat was actually a decent length, so you could actually run it. It was compared to say microclimates or the Habitats or
and if you can replace the probe, there's times that you get the probe caught under like you move a rack and then the heat cable gets caught under the wheel, you might as well just throw the heat cable away. The same with the probe. Sometimes the probe falls out. These are good tips that we never hear about. If the probe falls out and goes under the wheel, that probe's fucked. Sorry about the language. But then you need to replace the whole thermostat. The good thing about the iStats without the Herbstats were you could replace. You can pull out if the probe started giving you issues, you pull the probe out, you pay $20 and you've got a new probe and your thermostat's ready to go. Because very seldom the actual unit gives up. It's the peripherals. It's the stuff that hangs out of it. And exactly, Darren, the cables all need to be longer, and that's why I used to mount the plugs. We've spoken about this before. I used to get plugs installed at the top of the wall, so you can see where all the plugs are. So when you check if something's not working, you say, it's still plugged in, it's switched on, like that's why I put it always above, so you don't have to pull the rack out to see what's going on behind it.
Yeah, but for the average person, like unless you're building a dedicated facility, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I know. This is just this is advanced stuff. But I mean, there's guys out there that are, a lot of people build houses these days, and a lot of guys, serious reptile keepers, usually move properties, and eventually people buy. Reptiles do. If you buy the right reptiles, it does put you in a position where you can invest in a house. If you know what you like, a lot of guys that I know have invested in snakes, and if they know what they're doing, it puts you on the financially on the right foot. Some guys, most of us just put it back into snakes, but there are a lot of reptile guys that over the last 5 years that I know that have bought properties, and then when you buy a property, the best thing is to set up a room when you're drawing up the house to be able to handle large volumes of snakes, and that's the tips. The plugs high up and stuff. So I don't know why I said that, but I just said it.
Yeah. Aiden, ice stats we were talking about. Aiden?
Yeah. So to get back to the original topic, when I went off tangent a little bit. So yeah,
right.
Faye said as well. She said decent tongs and hooks and stuff like that, because I mean the tongs. I haven't bought a tong. I think I've got a set of tongs here still that I got in 2005 or something. That's the same thing happens. You buy a decent set of tongs and a decent set of tweezers and a decent set of decent scissors and stuff like that, and decent hooks, and you don't have to spend the money again.
Yeah. Go to Bunnings and buy a nice set of barbecue tongs for free. I've got 2 pairs the last few years. They're probably hanging back here.
Or those
hanging back there.
Or those hooks that looks like they're made from hanger wire, and then it's got like the wooden handle on the end, and you go, okay, that's gonna. You probably have one there. That's
I got this. This is one of the best ones I bought actually. This little fella here.
Oh yeah, they're sensible.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Some of these ants back here, like they're assholes when it comes to eating. They love their food, It's like open the drawer and you want to pair them up for. Even now, they all still want to eat.
Yeah, until that little copper bit falls out of the back of it, and it overextends, and then the inside starts.
Oh no, that's fixed. That one's not an extendable one. Yeah, I know the ones you're talking about.
Oh, the one.
Okay, that's 2 pieces now.
Yeah, the one that you put in your top pocket there.
It looks like a pen.
But we're all smiling because we all know what we're talking about, don't we?
Yeah, I know. I had heaps of them, mate. Customers say, I pulled it apart. And I'm like, oh, yeah, sweet, no worries. Give another one back as a credit. And I just chuck them in the bin side, like little hooks like this, lying around all over the place. Went through one and you just threw them all in the bin.
Oh no, that's not covered by warranty. Sorry, we sell it knowing it's absolute putrid rubbish. You can't get a fund on that. It's only $12. No reason why. There's a reason why it's $12. So
I use 2 snake hooks and they're all fixed. No extendable. They're garbage. The best ones I ever bought, and I still have them to this day, was I don't know you guys know, but old Jeff Banks used to go at the Hawkesbury Herp Society. Used to make his own snake hooks. And I bought 2 off him back in Hawkesbury Herps back. It would have been late 90s or something or other. And I use them every day. And I have done, even doing rescues, pulling over logs, trying to find stuff in someone's backyard or whatever, there's a snake and it's over under the rock, you use the hook to pull the rock over or whatever. Still use them now. Best hooks I've ever bought. They're just old golf clubs.
I just wanted to show you. So they normally sell them like this. Is not the in a snake room. I find that the standard size hook is way too long.
Oh, yeah.
I found is when Ironbark Reptiles went out of business. I found the best length I found ever with carpets is about you just need to get out of. So that breaks down into a short hook. I think that's the perfect length.
60 centimeter.
So that's got that much. I took that much off that hook. That's probably about 70 centimeters. Yeah, because that puts you out of striking distance, and it's still long enough to give you that, so you can pick up a Bradley or whatever. Like I don't like to go near them, and I think this won't go. I don't like to go near the bitey end. I just don't like to go. I just don't like to get bitten.
Right.
But these, I think they went Ironbark Reptiles when they sold up. I think I got this for like $20. So I just got it out of stock.
Mine cost $5 each.
They went through out of
One's a short one, one's like half golf club. It's probably big, maybe 60 centimeters or something. And it's used. I'm always like, where's my hook? Because I use it to actually slide the drawers open. So I use the hook to slide the drawer open and the barbecue tunnels to feed. So it's all. I'm always like, gets flogged every day.
Yeah, but that's the little things that matter, like you need a hook that you can break into the length that you want to break it down without it collapsing midway.
Oh.
When you pick out the snake, you don't want it flexing. Nothing should flex. It should just carry the weight and the rounded tips and the rounded hook ends and stuff like that. That's all good. So let's see if there's another. So Aidan Dempsey says Bunnings is great for water bowls. The plant-based sources work a treat. Yeah, it depends on what. Depends on what type of thing you keep, I guess.
No, I've found a new discovery. What water bowls, and that's a reject shop. I'm buying the dog bowls in there because I was running short of a lot of my bowls are old. So I'm like, I just want to get all new bowls and replace them all. And like $6 for like something's like that.
Show us the cheap goodies, mate. There's always a cheap, like
$6 for me. It's perfect.
And it's not the plain one that says dog on it. That's great.
Yeah, no, it's it. But just like at the end of the day, it's a water bowl. You want something that's heavy enough to not going to knock it over. Something flat-sided. And they're just a ceramic water bowl. It's easy to clean, easy to wash, and it's cheap. If you drop one, you break one. It's like, well, who cares? So I go to the local reject shop here when I can and walk in there and go, oh, there's a few there. I just buy them all. And I make 2 different sizes, a smaller one as well. So, you don't need to spend a fortune when you've got that many snakes to spend $30, $40 on a bloody water bowl.
Brent, you keep the ceramic. You use ceramic water bowls for your snakes as well, don't you?
Ceramics for everything from hatchies all the way up. Reptile Supplies Australia webpage quite often have those blue ceramic, the brown outside, blue inside.
Reptiles. Let me just quickly see if I can bring it up. Reptiles. Let's see if Reptile Supplies Australia.
Yep. I've bought off that page for years. Don't know who they are. Whoever they are, they do a pretty good job. They quite often run out of stock. Wipe out a lot of their stock.
They've got a big shop on eBay as well, haven't they?
Yep, they sell on eBay. They sell direct, cheaper off their own web page.
It's not Reptile Direct, is it?
Yeah, Reptile Direct Australia. I think
I bought off them before.
What's the cost of those water bowls, Grant?
Oh, they do the herb stats as well. Well, this show is all about giving it's questions and answers and then giving good tips. This is a great tip. Let me just see. I want to share the screen. It started glitching before with my new rig. I don't know what was going on. Let's try this again.
Oh, it's glitched again.
There was a bit of stuff. There was a bit of stuff happening. So it was Conor McGregor. It was Conor McGregor's leg getting broken. So okay. So let's have a look through here. So you've got your range of thermostats. Clearance. That's see now it's glitchy. It's glitchy. Did you see the glitch there?
I did see that. Oh wow.
Why is it glitchy?
It's only your feed too.
Yeah, I don't know that. It's
taken. Some gear, mate. It's this garbage you're using.
Let me just get rid of this.
Graphics card can't handle it.
Graphics card can handle it.
It's got a choking software somewhere.
It can handle it. Let me just get rid of that so we can see each other. So let's have a look. There's the clearance section is where I like to go. So you got your plants, your normal. Their ceramic heat emitters. Won't use that. Let's see if there's anything decent. Oh, God, there's 28 pages of clearance stuff. Probably more. I'm glitching again. Why am I glitching? Can we put a chat there as well? No, we can't put a chat.
They've actually got a huge range of plants, and take note of the sizes and actually measure, because I did buy some plants off there once without taking too much notice, and the things were about 1.5 meters big when they came out of the packet. So
what's that?
Some huge things in there. So yeah, take note of the sizes of the plants. Very important.
Yes, a reptile feeding kit there for you, Faye, and I'm glitching again. That's just part of the effect, people. Just working on it. I I heard my computer just made the fans just kicked on. So when I make that smaller, hang on, I'm gonna just go full screen.
Yeah, he's gonna try and figure it out.
I'm just gonna go full screen on this. We don't want any glitches. So you guys can still see that, can't you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so let's just go through here. So you got the classic crocodile head there that I don't know who it is. It's maybe a good cage decoration, but that's as far as I some reptile light. So there's so I just wanted to show people that website. They've got the calcium. So it looks like it's pretty well sponsored by a little bit of Tim Ensforth's shop there going on. Shop by brand, and you got the shop by brand here. Okay, no, it's got a whole bunch of other brands as well.
Yeah, big range of stuff. Lots of different animals they do as well, not just reptile stuff. So it's good pricing. I've always found those bowls. Darren asked, they have a whole range of different size bowls from $6 to $15 to the really big bowls you can get out old carpets into. So there's I've always just bought them over time.
I found these things. They're glass. They've got a coating on it, which some come off. They're only two things, but they're good size. Like particularly for say, the hatchie racks over here. I use them all my hatchie rods, tubs, and these come from Victoria's Basement. So normally they're $1.50 each, but if you keep your eye out, you can. I went in there one day. I had them on special for 50 cents, and they're nice heavy bottom. They're glass, so they're a decent weight. They don't knock it over. It holds a decent amount. Like it's quite good. So I went in there and went 50 cents because I use some of the ceramic ones. But what I find with the bottom, if they do a poo near it or get wet or something like that, it can sometimes go mouldy. It develops a mould under the bottom of some of the grounds if they're not as smooth. They've got a porous bottom. Some of the brown and blue ceramic ones.
It's nothing like a fresh turd in a fresh cup of water, is there?
Yeah.
And they always do that.
Yeah, I bought the whole lot. I think I bought like 300 of them. I still need to buy more yet, but like.
And they're nice. They blue. They
there's different
they fancy looking. Nice. Oh, they got the amber color as well. I do like that. What other colors we got there?
Oh, wait a minute.
Color is optional. Colors.
This one that the colors come off. So it's only on the outside. It's not on the inside. It's inside's just glass. But
and I guess you could stick all of that in the dishwasher as well. Bang.
If you want. My wife would kill me if I did that, though.
Oh, yes.
Those little turds, and then the water goes all brown and soupy. That's the best.
That
smells so fresh.
The fresh turd that's been there for a few days. It needs to not look like poo anymore. It needs to just be like this brown soup, and then the little scum layer. There.
Just pour more water in, it'll be right.
A lot of reptile keepers think that's okay to let their snakes sit there and have a drink out of that. That's.
They do it in the wild.
Oh, they do. Yes, they can.
They drink it out of a pond with a big carcass in it somewhere else. It's all right.
They hang around, and they probably, their senses are so. I've seen people leave water in their snake cages for weeks on end, and not. They would know. Their sense of taste is so acute that they would go to a bowl of water, and I reckon they would literally die than drink putrid water. They just put a fresh bowl of water in there, bang, they straight into it. I mean, we've all seen that,
You've seen tongue flicker and their heads in it.
Yep. Tongue flick, and then straight into it, and it just sits there and it just gulps that water down. So they do. I mean, I usually like to, I know it's when you've got a large collection, it's not always possible to do that, but 3 or 4 days, maybe, 5 days at the, once a week, decent, clean, is pushing it. But people that just look at water bowls and go, oh, there's some water still in there, let's just leave it, like they are doing their animals a total disservice. I always like to say to them, well, would you take that bowl and drink would you drink a cup of water that's been sitting next to your bed for a week? Would you go near it? That's the questions we have to ask yourself if you keep animals. Always. Like our dog bowl, gets clean every day, for water, the food as well, because they lick the bowl, and I might just be a little bit over the top, but I mean, that to me makes sense. That they get sick from the same germs as well, and you wouldn't eat from a food plate that's been sitting on the bench overnight that's been licked. If you lick a food plate, would you still put new food onto that licked dirty plate and eat out of there the next day?
They shouldn't do that.
No, you shouldn't. I know, I know you're being smart, but this is the stuff that people don't. It's like taking your dog for a walk on a 46-degree day and he's got no shoes on his feet. Look at these people. I look at them and go, we just want to just smack you against the head. If you have to think a little bit further than just your own little self when you keep animals, you know. So it's Sunday preachy time. Sorry, folks.
Feed the snake.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. You know, it's like these little common sense things that a lot of people just don't think. Oh, hang on. And then when you think about it, you go, oh, yeah, that does make sense. If I walk out there onto the hot road and see how you feel. And then, you
Barefoot.
know, you go with you want your dog to just be okay with that, you know, and then they get home and they wonder why the dog's lying in bed there because their feet's burnt to crisp, you know. That's me over now, the ranting and raving. But yeah, hygiene is a very important thing when it comes to keeping reptiles, and I take that type of stuff very serious. Glass ramekin bowls. Yeah, Colin Ray comes through with the information as well. Glass ramekin bowls. Those are the little white ones that you get at. So what do you make? What are those little puffy cake things that Gordon Ramsay makes in those little ramekin bowls? Creme brulee. It's a creme brulee that they make.
Creme brulee.
And you use a little gas burner and just make it brown on top. What's Colin so quiet? Is his stream working? Move around? Oh, you know.
He's alive. He's alive.
He's getting excited. You're talking about creme brulees.
Let's lockdown and going crazy over coloured glass water bowls. Yeah, no, we are going crazy. This is me.
Darren's already crazy. So.
Mate, it's when you got to find water bowls for 500 or 600 hatchies. It's like everything becomes, you know, the cost of $1 suddenly goes, you know, 50 cents. It's like $250. It goes up $1. It's 500. You know, it goes to $2. It's $1,000. Simple as that. So there's a big difference.
I used to like buying the 450. There was because there's a size that they can't tip over in those racks. You get, I think it's the 450 ml deli takeaway cup, and the 450 ml is just high enough so when they climb into it, they can't tip. They can tip if it's over full. They can tip it and spill the water out of it. But if it's 450 ml, it's got about a centimeter of space, so the hatchling can still put his head in there and drink out of it. But they can't tip it over. And what I used to do is I used to cycle them. I used to keep them. I used to use the same bowl for 2 weeks. So I would clean the plastic bowls, you know, after a week, and then I would do that for another week, and then by the second time I just throw them out and replace it. And they seem to work all right. You know, I see a lot of people use the conduit that they cut to a certain size, so it's got a square base. It's because it's got that tapered, you know, it's got that tapered sides that they can tip it over. If it's a square base, then they
straight bit of pipe cut.
Yeah. So they get the pipe cut, and then they put the bowl inside the pipe, and that stops it from falling. Even the better thing is now to get the tubs that have that already pre-made. I'd love to get some of those
tubs have the BCR have that in it.
Yeah, and you stick the plastic and just go in the top.
In there,
yeah, bang. But then, you know, plastic, more plastic in the environment, you know, like, I mean, I used to just stack them up and they used to take it. Luckily you can recycle plastic. So, I mean, it's not how much of that gets recycled, nobody knows, you know. But
it's to Malaysia and they burn it.
Yeah, they just, you know, burn it. You know, you can go out in the back and just make a big bonfire and just burn everything once a year, you know, get rid of it all in volume. Yeah, it's great. It's great for the environment. I love it. Any other questions? We've been going all right with me ranting and raving. You guys haven't got much to say.
You're going to spend 3 hours trying to work out the glitch now.
And it's just when I think it's a software issue. Because I'm the host of that show, and it's as soon as I go share screen that I start glitching, and maybe I don't know. It's weird.
Sorry, I didn't read them all, mate. Sorry.
What's that? And you need to figure out your mic because your mic was so beautiful and crisp last.
Yeah, well, see, my desktop PC was playing up, so it's going to get refurbished and going to my son for school and everything, and I'm getting a brand new one. But I'm waiting for it to come through because the UB graphics card I'm going to get, they ran out of. So I'm waiting for that. So I've had to do a quick plug into my laptop, which I used to take away for work. Yeah, and so I was like plugged in. I didn't really have time to test it. I thought it was this mic that was working because when I was probing the snakes before we'd come online, and it's like I was like, "Oh, can you hear me?" You're like, "Yeah." So I assumed it was this one working.
Yeah. No.
It's not that one.
But I thought maybe I was just hearing things. I don't know. Maybe it's you'll probably just have to restart your PC. I think maybe something there's a glitchy. But what graphics cards were you looking at, Darren? Because
I don't know. I believe that's the IT guy.
Oh, but yeah, don't just leave it to. What is he building you something for gaming or for working on?
A bit of everything. Yeah, a bit of both. So, like he knows his stuff. Like he does all the IT stuff.
3080.
Work.
I get a 3070 is about the easiest thing that you can get at the moment. Everything else, oh my god, you don't even
it's
try.
about the desktop itself's about $3.
Yeah,
that's his cost, and so that's like mate's rate's cost. Yeah. So the retail value is probably more. I don't know, but they still want something decent.
I got that little thing there. That's doing that. That's the logo in the computer. That's sort of cycling a GIF.
You have Donald
I wasn't going to buy it because I couldn't justify the price. And, I'm very easily influenced by my friends, and they say, just do it. Like, spend $200 too much.
Yeah.
Brent, you've got to
have the graphic playing in the background.
Yeah, I just like it. And it just does that. It's just a little bit of it keeps me happy. Sometimes we just sometimes you just have to buy something that makes you happy. That's like, hey, Brent, you know all about
absolutely.
Happy,
happiness is the number one.
Yeah, we work. What was that? That's somebody's. Is that Darren's phone that's on silent or?
No, mine's not on silent.
I thought that sounded like I heard that sound earlier. Let's just see if is there nobody. Is there nobody? Oh, there's Vincent Breslin. Yeah. But can we see the rig and what GIF you got? Keep a CPU cool. Yeah, I'll take a photo and post it because there's no way I didn't attach my wireless camera over there. That's for special events, IDT, this reptile chat or computer chat. Matthew Travis. Well, Matthew Travis, why don't you ask us a reptile-related question and we'll answer the question? Yeah. If nobody asks a question, then we'll just go off script and just start talking about other random stuff because we've known each other. All of us have known each other for a while. We can do that. We don't just have to talk reptile stuff when we're around each other.
Yeah, verbal diarrhea just naturally flows from my mouth, so it can be over anything.
Question here for Brent. Serious question for Brent. Has Cherie got a kitchen yet to make her happy, Brent? You like to talk about things that make you happy. Have you done something for your other half lately, mate?
I rang the kitchen man, and he's coming out to see us. So I have taken the step in completing my wife's happiness.
And your lockdown.
Yes, of course. And he said yes. So he's away. He's locked up. When he's free, he will come on down. So yes, we're working on happiness for the wife. It's going to be a long process, but we're taking steps forward. So I've got a question for Matthew Trabb. So is his stupid Parramatta half going to lose Origin 3 for the Blues? That's probably the more important question. If the gallery wants to get upset about questions.
Does he go for
Moses
the Peanut Gallery? I think that's what we call this show, the Peanut Gallery. On a Sunday when we do the Peanut Gallery, this is it. Huh? And we're not the Peanut Gallery. It's everybody in that comments. Yeah. Somebody did me. What was it?
We lose game 3. Matthew Trabbs has got a lot to answer for.
He says he's got carpet eggs.
Oh, he says he's got carpet. That is odd. I
saw one of the kids that spares his snakes in February.
How
cold is it up where you live?
When do you start pairing your animals up? January?
Yeah.
There's always that one bloke, though. There's always that one person who pulls out some clutch at some unbelievably early time. And if it wasn't Matthew Trabbs, I'd call bullshit. But you just see that and go, mate, they're both pictures from last year. Mate, get a new picture, That's unbelievable.
And then it puts everybody in in chaotic flat spin that they're going, I'm missing out.
Yeah, at that point, I hadn't paired anything. I'm like, I haven't paired anything, and he's already got a clutch. Like, something's wrong.
Retains man.
And then next minute, there's just snakes in tubs going everywhere. And they don't do anything. They just sit there and stare at each other. They're not hooking up. These guys having eggs already. What am I doing wrong? And then you back into the books and you start reading the books and you freshen up and what's going on. Meantime, it's just not the right time yet.
Everyone's animals cycle differently, and I guess everyone. If I've got females that have ovulated and laid at certain times in a year, they don't change that much the following year. So there's no point trying to change their cycle, trying to bring them forward. They know what a year is. They're not going to suddenly breed in 6 months after the last season. So
I'll put up the chat here because it's pretty funny. People are
Probably
We're triggering people.
They all-
If you have something paired up and you happen to get a snap cold early on in season for a week and those animals get dropped and then temps bounce back. So, for example, you get a cold week in April and you happen to have your animals paired early. If it suddenly warms up, that could be enough to trigger them. I only need a week of cold. I've had it myself.
Yeah.
Something randomly freaky. It's like, I'll chuck them together and see if the male's not eating, so I'll chuck them into the female. Then you get a week of cold weather. You happen to have them together, they lock. It warms up for another week, and the female ovulates.
God.
Quite early. Yeah. Well, he's not much use. He talks too much anyway. Oh, he's back.
the interesting thing that Matthew Travs was talking about, I don't know if Mr. Travs wants to disclose his plans for that snake about his breeding season this year. I don't know if I'm allowed to let the story out or not. He might have to comment on that, whether we push further into that topic or not.
Just fucking do it.
Let's do it. There you go.
You've opened the bag up now. You've undone the
It brings the obvious question of, if you can have that thing pop out a clutch that early, can it pop another? Has anyone ever double clutched carpets in the world? If you can feed that animal and throw it straight back in, is there time?
If it could have been done, it would have been done. And it hasn't.
I have heard stories like
good
you with corn snakes, but Darren, can you remember somebody did it with children's pythons and the good old APS? I remember there was a post once where somebody doubled children.
There was a claim.
It was allegedly.
Well, Bob, I remember Bob Willie saying, I've double clutched, carpets or whatever. Yeah, I had a clutch in January, and then they also laid a clutch in December the same year.
Yeah, clever.
So it's like, well, yeah, okay, not really. But
it's like those hatchies that arrive from overseas that are only 6 months old, but
whoa.
they're a year old, really. So
No, let's not go down the rabbit hole. But go.
Why not?
Hold on, I need to move this because Brent looks like he's looking outside of the screen. We need to look at each other. Yeah, but I did notice in the early days of the smuggling all the smuggling and stuff. The stuff that used to come in from Europe used to breed at a lot younger age. Like I had carpets breed, and I'm not saying that I was ever involved in that stuff. There's a disclaimer here on the bottom of the screen. I'm not. But
allegedly.
Allegedly,
everyone's names.
Allegedly, snakes that come in from Europe breed at like 12 months. That's when people say, "Oh, they breed them at no." And normally they'll breed at like 17 or 18 months. What's that? A year and a half? Like that's the earliest you can do it. But I remember this stuff. If you could put size on snakes that came in from Europe in middle of the year, you could breed them at a year old. You can breed them by the next breeding season because they were normally born around now. And if you can pump them by next year, this time you could have viable, not females, males. Just let's just take a note on that. Just with females or with males because they're big enough to breed then. A lot of the time they wouldn't because they'd be overweight because a lot of people just push them that hard that they beef up. But I remember
how many grams does a carpet female have to be to have a?
It's just okay because I was going down the wrong. You just had to pull the conversation back into the realms of legality.
Yeah, like come on.
I'm having fun today. Must be all that 4 spoons of
we're going into jail talk.
4 spoons of coffee in my small mug. Because normally I run out like halfway through, and now I'm still running out. I don't know what's going on.
Facebook jail, and then there'll be some real jail. We're all going to be in trouble now.
Let's not talk about jail. All right. Let's move on.
I've gone silent. I'm not saying a word.
Yeah, you're just sitting over there. When I refresh the screen, all the comments just disappeared. So sorry, guys, if we missed you, just post it again because we dropped out. I dropped out.
Touching buttons, mate.
because the chat overlay wasn't working. It must be a beta version of this new. There must be a beta version of this new software because it's been a little bit glitchy.
They beta again for me.
I've got the system that can handle it, but
Definitely not the system.
it's not the
So if you can't see, Vincent Breslin asked, when is the reptile mutation group making a comeback? I'm not sure which reptile.
Yeah, that was that first one that I had up, Darren, that everybody started to bitch and not like each other because,
What?
they always...
You mean people bitched and whinged in the reptile group on Facebook? I don't believe you. That's lies.
It's what happens when you put a bunch of guys in there with
Oh.
massive chips on their shoulders, like massive, like those, that meme with a big woman with a big bloody French fry on their shoulder. Like it happens when you put a lot of guys in one spot like that. And everybody's trying to overpower. I think it has matured a bit, though, the internet and social media. People just don't talk. The people that know stuff just don't comment anymore. They just let everybody follow this. What's that?
It's easier not to say anything than to argue with the people that think they know everything. So,
Yeah, how many times have you typed up something on your screen? You've got this great message, and you just go,
Fuck.
delete.
let's just delete.
I found a better method. It's called just don't look at Facebook.
Well, there we go.
Deactivate Facebook. I've done that for like 3 or 4 months now. It's been great.
Yeah.
Let me just quickly see. Let me just catch up here. So Aiden Dempsey, we've asked they're back together after feed and we're cuddling, so we will see. So what did you say? What was the pairing? You wanted permission to mention the pairing, Brent? Is that what you were saying?
No, just gonna if you wanted to discuss that the chances of the double clutch. That's all. Whether that was going to be a public announcement, which Colin baited me into making it public for everybody.
But he could bump he could feed the female and try.
Anytime.
He did. Yeah. He's given it a feed and repaired again. So fingers crossed. That would be something amazing. I would certainly love to see someone pull that off and it would revolutionize the world. Everyone would be interested then. It would be suddenly we'd be trying to breed stuff from January to December.
Yeah, I do think the follicles, the actual fat layer, would take time to build up. I mean, that's not something. But with a few of those big 350-gram jumbo rats, I think you might be able to have a chance to get some. But you need to feed it fatty food, so that fat, the extra fat, gets converted into.
It's not that. It's a question whether the female actually. That's right. You can put all the condition back in the world, but if that female's already gone, I've laid a clutch this year. That's it.
Yeah, here we go. Just as we spoke earlier about the thermostats, the cheap thermostats, he said, Matthew Travis says, happened the other day, my hatchie rack accidentally got switched off just after feed. 6 regurgitations happened after the power went back on. Yeah, because they
lost the body temperature.
Yeah, that's pretty quick though. He's doing a different composition here. I love it. Look at this. Different angle of Brett. Let's see if
he's plug the power in. I'm going flat.
Yeah, at least. So what is what are you three lads doing on COVID Sunday?
I literally woke up about 20 minutes before the show because I had to stay up all night because we've got 6 kids.
Yeah. Oh, nice. That's why you.
Some sleeping tablets, and then I got a few messages saying, "Check this. I need to check this." I was like, I better get up.
Maybe you should.
I'm going to go back to bed.
Darren was doing something there with probes earlier. What? Tell us. Talk us through it, please, mate.
What type of probes?
Show the people that don't know. I've got a massive set of probes in the van at all times. I don't know what.
You need to make sure you got some of that.
Is that the lube?
That's right. You need to make sure you got load. And you need to make sure you got some of that.
So show us what a typical probe looks like. Just hold it up to the camera. So take one out and show us what the probe looks like. Because I can always.
Is that the Herb Shot set you used to be able to get?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. Like there's all different ones. There's a few sets around. Someone was asking me the other day on Facebook about buying probes, and there's ones you can get with a ring on it. Like some of these little small ones come with a ring, and I don't like I like the ability that if I'm probing something small and it moves in an awkward position, I can just let the probe go. It doesn't matter, and then I can just slide it out. If that's you've got a ring in your finger and it moves in an awkward spot and that twists inside a cloaca, you know, they're not sharp, but there's still a point there.
Yeah.
And you don't want to damage anything inside. So I've never been a fan of the ones that have the loop on the back. I prefer these. They're nice, straight, little rubber. They're quite simple. So you know, that's not the small one. So you got your small one, you know, which you can use for hatchies. I prefer to pop my hatchies to sex them. I find it, you know, when they're out of the egg, it's, you know, when you know what you're doing, it's very simple and, you know, pretty much guaranteed. And then right up to some of the bigger probes. Problem with that,
I do agree.
Probably too short.
I do agree with you on the ones that's got like a little finger hook, like a hook on the back. If I can recommend something for if people for the viewers, if you do buy a snake probe set, always make sure to check the smallest probes if they've actually been smoothed, because I've bought cheap. Oh no, I've bought probes in the past where the people must have forgotten to just smooth around the tip of the smaller probes, and man, you could do some damage if you stick a sharpened bit of metal up a snake's cloaca, you know, up the reproductive tracts, you know, up the hemipens. You could sterilize that animal for life, you know, if there's a sharp bit on the probe. So just check it.
Some of those are really, really tiny. Like anything smaller than that, it's basically, even if it's rounded out, it's still going to be a point. And in something small, it is so easy to perforate if you're not careful or not experienced in probing snakes. And you know, like I've always said, if you want to get experience in probing snakes, you know, get a dead one. You know, like whether it's a rescue, I practiced, you know, on dead venomous stuff years ago when I was doing rescues, you know, because someone goes, oh, there's a snake in the driveway. They don't tell you that they've driven over it when you get there, it's dead and squashed. Yeah. So I'll practice that way till I got, you know, a feel for how much pressure you needed, you know, and then you go, oh, how much pressure that actually push through, you know, and you get a feel for it. So to have that, I mean, plenty of people that breed have hatchies, they don't all survive. They come out of the egg, some die in the egg. I mean, if they're pretty much developed, you can still probe it, you know, you can still practice on it. So, but I was just had some ants over here that I wanted I kept the whole clutch back, and I just went, oh, I'll sex them one day. That day happened to be today because I haven't bothered for the last couple of years, so I need to pair them up and
it's amazing though how it's progressed over the last few years. In the early days, it was so frowned upon popping and stuff, and it seems like a lot of guys are now you know, like I think there's a lot of guys around that could show the younger guys how to do pop sexing properly. Remember in the early Aussie Pythons, you know, it was you can only get a vet to sex and probe things. It was really the guys that were willing to just get out of their comfort zone and go, okay, well, no, we just need to try it. You need to practice and do it on a dead snake. And you know, popping was something I only started doing it when I had that many snakes that you could literally have like a spare male that you probably wouldn't use to practice on, you know. I mean, and it's terrible to think that was, but you need to do that at some stage if you want to get those basics down.
Yeah, you know? I don't pop any adults. Like as soon as it gets to a certain age, then I'll probe it.
Yeah.
And if I'm not confident might not be the word. If I'm not comfortable with probing, you know, let's say you got a small Antaresia and you think, oh, I'll pop them as hatchy, and then they get a bit older and decide to want to double check that. Because I wasn't sure, you know. Sometimes one of you thinks a female, you think, oh, I'll double check it later, or you leave it. I'll wait till they got a decent amount of size on them, you know, before. Yeah. Like it was just these guys here. I was just probing. They're not massive, but they're decent size. But you know, when I've waited for these guys to get to this big, you know, before probe them.
That's like didn't like you touching you, just waking up. Well, leave me alone. I'm going to shit all over you. What is that? Is that it looks like some children's, like a little Antaresia or something?
Yeah, not sure what's in that yet. We'll find out.
I'm just allegedly.
Yeah. I mean, it's just because, you know, they're easy to probe. Well, actually, he's like that now because I hadn't sexed them. You know, what's the easy way of finding them if you've got two boys or not? Throw two in the tub. So they're a little bit feisty at the moment because that's a boy. Yeah, and it was with another male in the tub, and they were having a great old go at it. But I probed them just to double check the girl. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see what happens.
There was something I wanted to ask Brent, but he's looking so good with the red and the white and the the hoods pop. Is it a hoodie? Is it an actual hood?
It's a hoodie.
It's like it's just a firm. It's like a firm hood that like keeps shape. Look, it's perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect pop on it and everything.
It's obviously been bought out of bad taste, but we'll talk about that.
Somebody. I'm trying to see if there's any more questions. That would be something I would attend just to get the one-on-one experience and teaching. Yeah, people. I mean, people don't really invite people over to come and have a look at their collections anymore these days, do they? I mean, it's just too much of a risk for somebody to give you something that you didn't want, from the visit like that. Get something extra to look after,
Mites, viruses, extra visitors later. You never know.
Yeah. What did Faye said something? He is asleep. Who is asleep, Faye? You have to specify, please. So I was going to ask you, Brent. So what do you get up to on a day? What's the plan for the night? What's happening at the Smith house?
Probably some Netflix or some Foxtel going on shortly. Now all the jobs are done. I try to get up early and get all the things I have to do before I hit that lounge, because we know when that little blankie comes out and
the Viking rug. Huh?
Yeah, the little Viking rug goes on the legs. That's it. They cannot function anymore. So
I was on those days yesterday and watched movies. It was great.
Yeah, but it is a bit worrying though that we need little blankies to keep our legs warm and stuff at our age. Like normally we wouldn't give a shit, but the little blankie comes out. It's I got
extra comfort.
I watched the Black Widow, Marvel Black Widow.
Oh yeah, I watched that too. Yeah,
and it's just I don't know I don't know where it fits in really. It's good enough. It's just it just dragged on. It's like everybody's not like it's right between that period of where they were outlaws.
Too much.
It was just like. No, there's no real superheroes. There's no real superheroes, and I like to see shit blow up. And it was just a little bit fun.
There was lots of shit that blew up.
I like reality Marvel. Like I like stuff that I can see could happen. There was a lot of stuff in there that I just couldn't.
I watched the other one, Tomorrow Wars.
Oh, that was
I watched that yesterday.
Tomorrow Wars, that was pretty good. And the other one was with Michael B. Jordan.
I watched that as well. That's on Amazon at the moment.
Yeah. Amazon's not bad. Amazon's definitely not a bad bet for value.
Well, I've got something on Amazon Prime for a month for free or something. I don't know for what. I'm like, oh well, quick, see what's on Amazon Prime. What's all the good movies?
Yeah, of course.
So that was on grocery yesterday.
What about are you still into the teddy bears? The chocolate coated
limited quantities. Yes, I've had to cut down.
Surprised they're next to your bed.
No, I do keep some in the drawer, but I took the last packet out this morning to the lounge room. So
it keeps 60 size the drawer too, I'm
sure. Where's your snakes, Darren? Your tub of what's that sugary
snakes are alive.
No, not today. Sorry, wasn't allowed. I've been banned. I gotta get my finger out of my bum. I gotta get back on the diet. Sitting at home, it's like. After being away from work and coming back and losing all weight, it's like, I'm home. I might just have all those things that I didn't eat while I was away.
Game store starts.
Yeah, so now I'm like, put on a few kilos. So my wife's like, no, that's it, diet.
And the gyms are shut, thanks New South Wales.
I came back and I was like, I'm going to take a couple of weeks off, like just to get over the torture of work, and then catch up on stuff here, and I'll hit the gym. Now they're shut.
That was 5 months ago, Davs. A couple of weeks off. Like that story, I like how you work for 3 weeks, and then there's 9 months of I need to adjust back to reality.
Loitering now, just doing stuff. Have you finished all your pool renovations and stuff that you were into last week?
No, we had to get the pool redone.
Oh.
So the stuff they put in the concrete mix they put into the Pebblecrete that went in the pool. There was an issue with it, apparently, from the manufacturer. So half the bottom of the pool went pretty much black. Oh. So it was like real dark blue patches all through the pool, just started spreading. So they literally had to drain the pool, chip it all back out again, and redo the whole surface of the pool. So But
I know you've got that pool in your backyard as well, Brent. But I think that space could be used up better. I was going to ask you, your monitor lizards. What's happening with the lacies? Are you going to try? Have you got any males there? Have you got any girls there? What's going on? Are you trying them this year or what?
Maybe this year if I get keen. There's definitely one's a male for sure, and I'm pretty sure the other three are all females. So they're all busy sleeping at the moment. Very cold here in New South Wales, so I haven't seen the boy for a month. The girls actually come out on a day like today where there's a little bit of sun. They must sense it, and they come out for a little hour sunbake and then back into bed. So, but yeah, hopefully this year we might give it a crack. It's not something I'm dying. I'd love to get it done, and at 180 plus days of incubation, I guess it's a very long wait after the action time. But
Let's be worth it.
I'd love to see it. That'd be just like the olives. It's just a species that I'd love to see coming out of eggs. So.
Yeah, but I doubt that it would be too hard to get them going with the setup you've got there. I mean, nature would do majority of the work. You just have to give them a lay box and make sure that
get the timing right. And I've seen and sort of talking to some experienced guys. Richard Bithman helped me out a fair bit. There's certainly the timing's got to be spot on. You get it wrong, you can see some massive injuries to lacies when they're not ready to play ball. So those teeth and claws are not friendly to each other if you don't get it right. So we'll have a bit of a play this year, but tread carefully and certainly no rushing.
One last question, and I think I've seen the numbers have dropped off because we start talking. People just like, we don't want to hear what these guys talk about their private stuff, and they talk about their food habits and stuff like that. Like I would watch that, and just because this is good content. I mean, we're creating good content here. Can't think that it's
Whose dog's barking?
I don't know.
Darren, not your dog.
I'll give it two.
At my place.
Definitely not my best. Could be one of Colin's kids, Yeah. Where's that monster of yours was smashing the mouse the other day? My goodness. Like this one of these mice. Not a real mouse. We don't torture animals, but the one last question, Shane Croft. This is a good one because I think Darren might be able to answer this because I don't know. I've never had any. I don't know how old the oldest snakes are that you've got. He says he's got two male diamonds, pythons, two males, 20 years, but never mated before trying this season. Will they go? Yeah, well, it depends. You can't put two males won't do anything for you. But what's the oldest? I'm assuming that he's got a female as well. What's the oldest snakes that you've put together, Darren?
Probably 14, 15 years of age. I had some Antarcticians that's been older. Carpets, I've got stuff paired up now that's 14, 15 years old. I don't know, it's a funny one. Sometimes I find that they're I don't know whether it's the male or female, fertility drops off, their clutch viability drops off. But, you say that one year, but then the following year they produce a cracking big clutch. So I don't know whether it's just as they age, their recovery rate slows.
Yeah.
So you get a young carpet that's, let's just say for argument's sakes, you pump up the size, have the first clutch at 2.5 years, you throw enough feed in them, they'll back up year after year after year after year. I find with some of the adult stuff now, some of the bigger girls, not that I pump the bigger girls to breed every season, but I find sometimes I'll pair them up and you get nothing. It's like, oh, that's interesting. So I've done it with a couple of the older girls and I've noticed they've almost start cycling themselves now. So instead of producing a clutch every year, it's like almost every second year now. But what I find is a lot of those older things, I've had them for so long, they're just part of the furniture in the house. Like they're, not something I'd sell. So I tend not to breed with those guys as often anyway. So it's, those ones I'm off, a lot of their babies now are coming from their kids. So I've bred them, held back the babies, and their babies are up to size. So
I always just wonder how old would they realistically get in nature, where the elements are, because they've got the perfect life in captivity. People, they get food offered, they get given food. We kill them because I think we nurture them too much. But I sometimes wonder how old does a reptile in the wild that's got all the elements against them. And don't get me wrong, they still do live like kings. I mean, if you you find some of these animals and you go, man, how have you got such good they've got better muscle tone. I guess longevity in the wild's more based on the environment where they're in. I mean, if it's a really harsh environment, I can't think that they get to 20 years of age easily in the wild.
I think they'd struggle to get that old in the wild, unless they're in pristine habitat. But everything's got, accidents happen, You could be out cruising one day and the car drives over it.
Yeah. Faye's coming through with the hard information here. Bred 21-year-old children's python in 2 years in a row. Oh, that's okay. That's well done.
But is that male or female? I'm talking more specifically with females. I think males will go a lot longer. I think males. There's less stress. If you put a male in with a girl,
it's
it's nature. He's going to do what he needs to do. But whether that female can reproduce a clutch, not that she couldn't. It's how frequently she can. Yeah.
I think sex drive is something that it's across the board. I think the older you get, the lower the sex drive gets. It's just one of those things.
100%. I think also the size too. I think it takes a lot more. The Antaresia, they're small. I think they're a lot more. I think they're a lot more susceptible to breeding at a longer time. They seem to live longer. From all people I know seem to have had older Antaresia versus carpets. So,
okay, so it's a pair, that 21-year-old pair.
Yeah, I know the one she's talking about. So,
yeah. I wonder how many people could say they've got 21-year-old snakes. Oh my goodness! What's your oldest animal that you've got, Brent?
I got some Bredli stuff that's 14, 15 years old. I bought as adults, like they were 7 or 8 years old when I bought them. And I bred that. The male's probably the oldest. I think he's about 15. He bred a couple of years ago. Fine, no problem. I guess with females, probably fertility rates would come into play. At some point, I guess they probably still produce clutches, but you'd probably start to see, clutches of slugs or, less good, healthy looking clutches in some of those animals that are very aged. But I'm sure Faye had good success with those children. She told me about that clutch he had. Wasn't a huge clutch, but got a few out nice and healthy. So
yeah, that's the thing. It's also like it's the same with rats. People, coming from commercial breeding rats, people think, you keep them. The older they get, the less viable they become. More so the males and the females in their case.
Smaller litters. Yeah,
the litters start getting their viability. Everything starts to drop in the male, and I wouldn't keep a rat over 12 months of age. Like most of my stuff was lucky to see 10 or 11 months of age. So it's not on the head.
Have you got anything there, Colin, that's long-term captive?
Not really, like 8-9 years. That's about it, really.
I think that's sort of the average that I think the majority of animals that I know of would be sort of that ballpark.
I had blue tongues that were much older, but passed away a year or two ago.
Yeah, what was the
23 years old.
23?
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay.
Amazing.
It's like I've seen people say, I never thought green tree frogs would get old, but I've seen guys that reckon they've had them for 20 plus years. And it's just because they get looked after. Perfect environment, heat spot for them to warm themselves up. There's food on tap. I mean, how could you not just live like a king? You might not be able to go anywhere new, but who cares if you've got everything given to you?
Yeah.
And it's an important point I try to tell people when you sell them a snake. This snake's going to live for a long time. You don't have to worry about rushing to handle it and calm it down in these next 2 weeks. Leave the thing alone for a while. Let it settle and eat. And more importantly, just everyone rushes to want to play with them, which is cool, but, they live for a very long time. So no rush.
I'm messing around here. I was just trying to, sorry, Brent. I was just trying to see what's the right level here. I'm sort of sinking into the seat more as the day progresses.
Was all that hand waving made you shrink back down?
Well, I'm a bit tired now. I'm going
to
have to go sit on the couch as well after this and just put my little blankie on, my little footrest. You need a footrest. If you don't have a footrest to lift the legs, they say that a little bit above heart level, that's the best place for your feet to be, to get the circulation going. I've got the Apple Watch as well now that keeps reminding me to stand. It's already given me a Like I think from moving the hands though, it's saying that it's okay. It hasn't given me a notification. It's when you're sitting still for and not moving at all. That's when it says, "Do you have to move now? Stand up for a little bit. Stretch the legs." Amazing technology, isn't it? Huh?
Yeah.
Saves us from near death. Brad. Okay, so I think that's. Let me just see if there's any more questions. No, Aidan Dempsey he says it sounded like a bunch of old married people that was on the show. That's good. I mean, the show can only be as good as the interactions that happen on the show. I mean, you can't do a show with nobody. People need to get along around here. So,
last reptile. No, did everyone see that albino blackhead on posted from the UK?
Yeah.
That's a great looking animal. Wow, I can't wait till they come back to Australia. I know there's been so many stories of them. They were here and they were sent over there, and they're going to come back. And
stories that they're still here, but just not viable.
Lots of fertility issues apparently.
Before I knew you, Brent, there was Darren would also know. Because Darren knew the guys up in Sydney that were heavily involved in acquisitions at some stage
through the magic portal.
This is now just allegedly. It's just rumor. I would know nothing. I'm speculating. It's speculative.
A story you read on Facebook once.
Story yes. I heard a story. The guys that there was talk of it coming, somebody smuggling in hets at one stage, and because the individual that was involved in acquiring the animals was known to get hold of that type of animals, people paid big money for those heads, only for those heads to turn out that they were not heads post prison sentence time. And and I think he's still looking at prison. The other individual is still looking at prison time. I'm not sure they caught. I did see a big news article a few years ago. We all know who we're talking about. It starts with the N, and the first name is an N, and the surname is as an S, and the other one is a M. And what is M? What was his surname? The one with the. Let's not. He played for.
Can I buy a vowel?
You can buy a vowel. He played for the same team as you've got the.
Oh, there we go.
We're not going to name names, But I'm sure. Yeah, but I'm sure, Darren, you would have. Did you ever hear about the head? There was an albino chondro as well. Everybody got shown the same picture, and there was big.
That was actually here.
Did you actually see that snake, or did you only see photos?
I didn't actually see the snake.
Yeah. Did you know somebody?
I personally know two people that actually physically saw that snake.
Ah.
And one is a trusted friend. And I'm going to go into details, but yes, that person actually had hands on it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for.
It's getting crazy upstairs.
Yeah, that was They were looking at it from, I can't say why because it would give away the person possibly, but yeah, they were looking at it with an interest. They were there. Yeah, but yes, that albino chondro was there. That's my dog now. Yeah.
Oh, that is your dog. Okay.
That's my dog now. Yeah.
You're on the money there, Brent.
Mm-hmm.
Hearing. Yeah, he's got the hearing aid that goes right into the brain, so he can hear it that nobody else can hear. So that snake probably would have ended up dying, though, wouldn't it?
It was not a healthy animal.
No, of course, I can't imagine that something like that. I mean, I can't imagine that something like that, because he would have stayed in suboptimal conditions while the person was trying to get the best price.
I don't believe it was a healthy animal when it came out.
Faye says, I know someone that bought theirs. Of course,
I know someone that bought them as well.
Yeah, I know somebody that. Yeah.
Never seen an albino hatch out though. No. But you're talking about the BHPs.
Yeah, I think it's the same person that we're talking about. It's up north of us. No, not north of us. Sort of like to the side, a little bit higher than we are. I don't want to, because the people would know they knew this. So that's interesting. So the Brents, just to add into that little, they were allegedly here in a head form that never turned out to be it. So, but it's only a matter of time, and then those guys would start rolling them out. But shall we make a speculative value indicate? What do you think? Let's speculate about price. What would something like that would be worth in today's current market?
Well, I know someone
20 grand.
I know someone that paid, I think it was either 40 or 50K for a pair of hits. From an albino BHP that was out here, that was bred out here, but has not successfully hatched any white ones. That person paid a lot of money, and they have not hatched any albinos. And now, apparently, the albino that produced them, those babies have yet to produce viable white ones. So producing white ones, but they're not surviving.
And it's a lot less. It's not as easy these days for videos and photos of that type of stuff not to go on the internet. You know, I think that's was 5, 6, 10 years ago. Somebody could still catch something like that and have it quiet in the background and not say anything about it. People are just so eager to get things online now and post it and stuff. I mean, you saw that blue tongue that they caught last year in somebody's backyard that looked like a pied blue tongue, then, you know, and that ended up at the Australian Reptile Park. But how long? That was just some random person that found that snake.
Yeah.
And she was inundated with emails to buy the animal.
Yep.
You know? She ended up taking it. God knows they'll probably end up. I don't know. It's a funny world we live in at the moment. So, Aidan Dempsey, last question. Absolute lie. What it worth throwing an albino olive or an albino Darwin over a black-headed python? You'll end up with one python, and you'll be nice and full. Yeah.
You end up with a BHP that's well seasoned for the next, nice and fat.
It will help him to the next breeding introduction of a real blackhead python to a blackhead python. So okay. So I think no, Aidan, the black-headed python would eat the other species. Oh, it might work, but I'm not willing to. I wouldn't risk it, and you'd get into trouble as well, and be something that you could never, you know, openly tell people about. I don't know. Are people more open to hybrids these days? I've been out of the loop a little bit. What do you think, Darren?
You're talking about in regards to crossbreeding species, like
I'm surprised.
I'm sure overseas they did BHP with Womas.
So similar.
You know, they do a lot of
species,
stuff. Well, the thing is, I don't know. I know people trying to put albino Darwins over roughies and also them. Obviously, Carpondros are a huge thing, and you got bat eaters over in the US. There's heaps of hybrid type species over there. I mean, I don't know if anyone's actually tried to throw a carpet over a BHP. I think the timing's right. I don't think it'll be impossible, but often those offspring, if they do hatch, are normally non-viable. Not always the case, but. Yeah, I thought I read somewhere, James. I think you're right. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I saw somewhere that they've done carpets and BHPs overseas. Yeah.
That would be a very rare situation where you'd put a snake in with a black-headed python and another reptile would get out with. Maybe if they're the similar size.
You'd have to do similar size.
And you're lucky and you watch them. And I mean, it's not something that I'd even try. I wouldn't even, if it's some of my only animals, I wouldn't risk it. I just wouldn't do it.
No.
I am surprised that I haven't seen any Jagpondros or Carpondros locally. I mean, that's something that I thought would be 5 years ago already.
People have tried to do them. I know they've had success. I know people that have been.
I'm going to go.
All right.
Oh, well.
See you, Cole.
Colin's
See you, mate.
See you later, mate.
See you.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether it's like, even overseas now, still not overly accepted. People think, you're playing with nature, but at the end of the day, it's a cat and animal. It's never going to let go. Personally, no, not something I'm interested in doing and probably would never do.
Yeah.
Some of the Carpondros in particular are like a crazy looking animal. God, some of them look awesome, but I don't know. I just don't know if there's, in terms of a market for that sort of animal out here. I know there'd be people who would do it, and there'd be people interested in having them and wanting them, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, because it's still certainly a frown thing. Oh, in nature, it wouldn't happen, Diamond wouldn't,
I guess if you're in a position where you've got two female green tree pythons and a whole room full of carpet pythons, then it could be.
Yeah, you know, but
Eventually,
I know somebody that might own.
But
one
that's
could
like
slip
actually-
in, you think?
yeah, it's like,
You
like the
never
old
know.
days of APS. Oh, my diamond accidentally bred with my bread line.
Yeah.
Accidentally bred
No,
with your okay, my jungle accidentally mated with my diamond python, and what do?
Oh,
Yeah,
the
they were
chaos.
both out on the grass for a stretch together, and next thing there was a clutch.
Yeah, accidentally.
I went to sleep that night, and the next morning I found them in each other's cage, and I don't know how they got in there.
Yeah,
Did you ever remember those photos that I posted in the early days of my albino carpet over a Murray and a Diamond, and the Aussie pythons just exploded. It was
Sacrilege.
who were the regular the purists, and then they all turned jag lovers. Neville. Neville was Neville. Was he a jag hater? Somebody was it, Roger was a purist. He ended up with sorry, we're naming names, but they know there's the truth. You know, like it was like early days. The guys, Colin. Remember Colin?
Oh, I had.
They're right. He
Jungles.
was like, don't bring that shit. Next minute, albino jags, jags. I'm like, this was the guy that
Things
ate
changed.
everything about, like, and there was many of them, and then eventually they all came to the dark side in Australia. It was the funniest thing to watch. And like, remember we predicted, we said, don't you worry, these things are going to be the biggest things in the industry. All of us, especially me and you, Darren. I mean, we were like front runners with that. So we all said, but just watch 5 years from now, there will be more interest in these mutations than there will be in locality stuff. Now you struggle to find. Luckily, there's still guys at work. I always thought it was a pity that people couldn't see all of it as a big picture, that the reptile industry is one big group of people that love. And you don't have to just be a jag breeder. You can breed pure jungles as well.
Yeah, that was
All
like
different
always got me.
sectors.
It was like,
I was a mutt breeder, you know, because you put like your case, you know, you put an albino over a jungle or something or other. It's like, oh, therefore everything in your collection is, you know, crossbreed. It's like, no, you know, if I put this male MD with that female MD over there, then I put that male MD in with an albino over there, I still got pure MDs.
Yeah.
You know, out of the female, like, you know, it's like, you know, but I don't think the hobby is anywhere near like that anymore. I think, people, because I've always said, like, what you do in your home is your choice. If you want to put a BHP over a green tree python, well, that's your choice. You know, just if you do that and you're going to sell those babies, you need to be honest with what you're selling.
Yeah.
You know, not like, oh, geez, this looks, you know, I put my bread lie over a diamond. Oh, that looks like a bread lie. Oh, no one wants these crossed, you know, bred animals, so I'll just sell it as a bread lie. You know, that's wrong. Like, just sell it for what it is. Like, or don't make the accident of breeding them. If that, you know, don't just make numbers for the sake of making numbers. Yeah, that's right. Be responsible.
Yeah, but I think that was a valid point. I think that was a valid point to say, but you know, not a lot of people were dishonest. But now people don't. You know, in the early days, people would have been dishonest about it because they knew how people would behave when they.
Oh yeah.
Now it's like we don't really care, you know. Like I asked, somebody sent me a message the other day asking about stuff, and I said, "Well, do you know?" They sent me a photo of a pure coastal, and I looked at that thing and I went, "Nah." So, you know, like, and I mean, this is now the remnant of those early days where people were selling sibling from jag clutches because they didn't want to disclose what were in them. They were just selling them off as.
Oh, this one looks like
this looks like a coastal, so I'm going to sell it as a coastal. Now we've got the issue where it is a little bit tainted. So now you just find the guys that work with the straight line. So they are still guys. You just need to look for them. And now, because they've refined those lines, you're going to pay more.
But it's funny you say that because the amount of times you see people put up, oh, this is my pure such and such, and you're going to that ain't pure.
Yeah.
Like anybody that's been around for as long when all you got was pure stuff before all the mutations and all that sort of stuff, you know what you're looking for. You know, you can tell if it's an intergrade. You know, you can tell if it's a pure coastal and that. And when you look at it, you go, nah, head markings aren't wrong, that pattern's on this colour. I mean, there's variation, but there's still standard stuff in
But that's
yeah.
but that's the thing though, and then you get the, like you say, that you get the question, yeah, but how do you know? And then they try and challenge you on it, but you go, but you know, you were alive before the whole mutation thing happened, so you would know what the characteristics are of those different subspecies in all the snakes.
So now you look at it and just go, there's no point arguing because it doesn't matter, because the guy they bought them from, you know, said, oh, that's a pure coastal, for argument's sake. Oh, it's a pure coastal, you know. So how do you know that he bought them from someone that has an outcrossing? Like, how do you know the lineage of those animals? Like, you know, my coastals I've had for one of the first carpets I bought, like, I don't know, maybe not quite 20 years ago. You know, I'm still breeding from the same line.
Yeah.
You know?
I think, well, luckily, it's not so judgmental these days. Even other things as well. I just find people are just, reptile keepers in general are not as judgy. Maybe I'm just, you know, I only deal with you guys. You know, I don't venture further. I don't venture far from the people that I know over the years and stuff like that. I don't try to make new contacts in, because I just don't see the point. Maybe I'm just not a. Maybe I just don't see that interactions, those negative interactions anymore. But luckily, there's
still out there, I think. But you know, I think people have evolved and social media has evolved, and it was cool once to jump all over the newbie and carry on like a dick, like you knew everything. You know, people did it 10 years ago, 5 years ago, but I don't know. I feel like maybe just in the groups I've sort of looked at, you don't see it as much anymore. Definitely not. I think people have probably grown up, woken up, and tried to make the world a better place.
Yeah. Oh well.
We can
Look,
hope.
let's. We all need to go and sit on our various positions and to relax before another work day tomorrow.
Cordial's empty.
The green juice, my coffee's finished. Darren needs to get back to sexing snakes. He loves that. You know.
You're glad you kept that sex down. You're going to say get them back to sex?
You got the lube there.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready.
We've seen the way you tuned up that microphone earlier. I didn't think you'd need lube with the way that you tested that mic.
It just degrades. As soon as we don't talk about reptiles, it just gets all messy, doesn't it?
That's Brent's fault. He started it.
So I just wanted to give keep your eyes open for so Carpet Fest is still a go for next year. Well, we don't know about the Delta variant. It might throw a spanner in works. So I'm not going to commit to anything. But if everything, so next year, Queen's birthday weekend, wherever that is in New South Wales, and I think it's the same for Queensland, New South Wales, and Victoria at least. So whenever the Queen's weekend's on, we'll do a 3-day get together and talk reptiles and have a big party down in Victoria for now. And then we'll see the success. If that's successful, we'll take it New South Wales, and we'll make turns with the states. You know, depending on what the interest is and stuff like that. It's just easier to have that closer to me, because if I'm organizing that event, then I'd like to be close so I can micromanage. You know, because that's how I roll, micromanager. So, but I just wanted to thank you guys again for tonight. Darren, where can people find you on Facebook? Please plug yourself. Thank you.
Yes, Morelli by Design on Facebook.
Just say that again. You sound.
Is it better down here? I don't know which microphone. I don't even know where the microphone is on here. But Morelia by Design.
Morelia by Design. I'll just because you still sound like you're talking through a door. And please figure out what the hell's going on with your mic after this event.
Yeah.
So find Darren there. Have you got anything for sale at the moment, or not really?
Yeah, I've actually just started putting up some stuff on Andy Reptile Classifieds Australia, Andy Sinclair's site, Fuzzy Fox.
Yep.
Yeah, because I do, like, I've been holding stuff back for so long. It's like, I really need to trim down some numbers. So keep your eyes out there, and I will be, there's plenty of stuff I need to move along. So it's like.
Yeah. So just to say that again, so Reptile Classifieds Australia, that's where you can find Darren's stock that he's posted for sale. We will, and you will never find us promoting sales of reptiles on Facebook. You know, that's totally against the user policies. We might get a Faye was saying she's banned for 30 days. I wonder what she posted. 30 days on Facebook. That's crazy. But yeah.
Repeat offender. She's
Yeah.
a bad woman, Faye.
And Brent, where can people get a hold of you? Have you got much for sale at the moment, Brent? No, not really. Have you? No?
Yeah, still probably 100 snakes there, I suppose, from last season.
Oh.
All the fast stuff goes. All the albino zebras, the really popular stuff goes very quickly. So that stuff, long gone.
Yeah.
Still some genetic stuff there, and still a lot of nice caramel jags and ghosts and other things still there. So yeah, KHP Reptiles on Facebook. You can get me there, or get me Brent Smith on Messenger. I'm never too far away.
I'm assuming shipping's also shut down at the moment with the airports.
Well, according to last week, Qantas were making some massive changes due to COVID about multiple airports. It's going to be an absolute shitstorm that now animals can't go multiple airports under the one airway bill. So you basically need to send an animal, to Cairns. It's got to go to Brisbane and be received by somebody, the shipping agent or somebody else, taken away from Qantas. New AWB number stuck onto it, relodged at Qantas to take the next flight up to Cairns. So you can pretty much forget about any multiple airport transport for a while, because there's no way I would freight anything and trust somebody else to, pull off labels and swap things. Like it's going to be a disaster. Qantas itself is still open, still going as of this week, and obviously still booking through agencies. So at this stage, all still go, but I think you'd have some problem driving. For me, it's a 3.5 hour round trip. I don't know if I got pulled up by the cops. You could justify saying I'm delivering a snake to Qantas to send across the country as a legit reason to be out and about. So, I'd say for a little while there's not going to be a whole lot of stuff going anywhere.
All right, so just bear in mind that there might be a wait because, people want instant gratification. So before you contact the guys, do be aware that there might be a time frame limitation there involved. So if you want it now, maybe local is a better option. But if you want the good stuff, hit Darren up and Brent, and they'll help you. And you guys have got good after you guys help to guide the newbies through the whole process. It doesn't leave a bad taste in your mouth, if you get the snake and it dies, like these guys have been in the industry for as long as I've known people in the industry, they've got a good track record. So there's a decent plug for you guys. So thank you again for helping out today. I always enjoy these catch-ups. It's I love the banter around it. Not so the reptile talks are right, but the funny shit around it, and hand waving and coffee and drinks and stuff. It's always better. So I'm going to try and see if we can get Joe Ball and a couple of guys now, seeing that my system can handle this many, because except for my glitching when I was trying to share a screen, there was no other issues. So I feel more confident.
Running well.
Yeah, and it's smooth, and that was the 1080p, so the quality is right up there. And you guys love the video feed out of Darren there. Brent, yours always great. It helps to have a nice face as well. So
money well spent of yours. You can tell Nicole now that all that money you spent was very, very justified.
Yeah, it's still going to be a hard sell. But it's like I said, you do the stuff that makes you happy, because you're one. If you're in the grave, then you can't enjoy anything around you. So Darren, if you need any tips on that system that your IT guy is building, I'm sure I've taken the whole week to set this thing up, and then I clicked something wrong, and the whole system just came, and then it took me days and hours to get it back.
That's why I just go. I need something to do this and to do this. The Facebook stuff and everything. Yeah. And he's like, I know what you mean. I'm like, but I want it, so it lasts a while. He's like, I know what you mean. I'm like, well, to this, he's going, I know what you mean. Just
do it. The money's
even this laptop, I told him what I wanted for work, and he's like, go get one of these. He said, this is good. I'm like, sure? I'm like,
If you can't fix that microphone, Daz, you're going to have to go back to the Macca's headset, mate, because that's shit.
I was going to call it up. I was going to say earlier today, I was like, I can't do it to him on live here.
Large hot chocolate.
He just needs
to go for the smaller one.
It's just they make things with some decent sound now. It's just you just need to spend a little bit more, and you get like $400, and you get a headset that's premium quality. You know, so but that mic was great last time. Just figure out what was going on. I think it might have just leaked.
It probably just needs, like you said, probably just need to restart the computer because everything's pointing to this mic, like
Maybe just
the computer systems and everything. So I don't know what's going on.
Maybe just needs a software update.
Maybe you left it unplugged from your last fans only session or something.
The batteries.
You wouldn't know, mate. You don't pay enough to come and see it.
All right. So thank you guys again, and for everybody that stuck by us. There's 15 still watching. There was quite a peak there at one stage, but I think we lost them when we started talking about blankies and stuff like a bunch. It's probably people our age that's still watching and older. You know, they understand. They can associate. They hear the truth. You know, it's you know, we don't sell dreams here. You know, this is life at 45 plus, and you know, we just deal with it. So
the real world.
The real world. So, guys, good luck at whatever you're doing this week. Brent at work, Darren.
Thanks, Phil. So you guys can get lost. I reckon I sound all right. So that's all that matters, mate.
Yeah. So, thank you, and good luck, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Stay safe.
See ya.